Events that took place. What would you have done if you was going to go and celebrate? In fact, you did say you celebrated it. How did you celebrate it?
Me and the adopted Jamaican family, we went around Folkestone, all in different types of Jamaica t-shirts, in the colours and all of that. Someone walked up to us and said, "You look at the Olympic team." I don't know if I was happy or sad about that, considering the 100 metres debacle.
We're going to get to that.
But it was nice. It was nice. It was really nice.
That's good. That's good, man. It was 6th of August 1962. They got their independence.
Which would make it how long?
62 years. Yeah, 62 years. Amazing. And it's mad when you think about it. That seems like a long time ago, but in the
grand scheme
of things, the colony was actually made a colony for the English in 1509. So when you consider how many years that is, it's not had that much freedom. And that's the general gist with a lot of the countries that were colonies from this country. It's mad. Mad.
Quick question though, maybe for any of the younger viewers or anybody, to be fair, say younger, anybody. Is it what
any of the young things that are watching?
No, in general, on a serious moment. What benefits has Jamaica or any of the other countries got from being independent that you know of?
Oh, well, I'll tell you what I do know. I can't say for the English. I can say for the French, especially in the last 2 years. The French colonies in West Africa have had an uprising and they've basically kicked out the whole of the French governorship. And what they've now done is taken up their own industries, their own infrastructure, and then building their own countries themselves. I think the problem with... I won't say with Jamaica because I don't know, but I can say it with Nigeria and certain other countries, is they allowed the governance, even though the governance of the United Kingdom was gone, they allowed them still to have their fingers governing how the country was. And then what then happened was, instead of the countries having their own things running, they were now being run by companies like Shell, like BP, British companies. But it should really be Nigerian companies doing it. And I suppose it may be a similar thing in Jamaica, I don't know, but that's what I would think would be a benefit from these countries right now. Certainly now I'm seeing it. I don't know about from those years then though. Don't know about from the other countries.
So do you feel like So what I was trying to get to is more what things have improved for the people that have taken their independence. So people are always on about the independence and how great it is, celebrate it, etc. But what have they got that's great? I mean, I had, just a quick side note, I had a theory, and I wanted to put it on the podcast actually, is to say, I said, what would happen if every one of the West Indian or Caribbean islands were independent, and they all came as one and became one people, similar to how, what can I say, Greece has it. Greece has loads of different islands that are there. And not one of them say, well, I'm a Creconian, or I'm a where was I the other day? Sorry, I'm forgetting all my freaking Greek islands. But I'm basically I'm from that place of that island. They all say to themselves, well, they're from Greece. They're from Greece. That's where they all are from. So what would happen if the West Indies or the Caribbean decided to themselves, well, let's just be one people. Let's just be the Caribbean.
So like Europe.
Yeah. Well, not so much like Europe, because Europe's a little bit individualized.
Okay, so
like
what you say everybody from the Caribbean will become Jamaican, or let's just say 5 people?
Let's just be Caribbean. We're Caribs. Let's call it that. If you want to call it one.
Isn't there something? I know that there's something in terms of banking, because there's the Eastern Caribbean dollar in it, and that's more than one country's currency. I know that in the West African states, Nigeria, Ghana, a couple other countries in the West African area, they're part of a commonwealth called ECOWAS, which is the economic. I can't remember the acronym, but it's of the West African states basically, and they all do business. They all work with each other. I think that would be the benefit, but you don't want to lose your sovereignty. You don't lose your independence of being a Jamaican, being a St. Lucian, being a Trinidadian. You want to be able to say, my culture, my country is still my culture, my country. You don't want to lose that.
They're all very different.
Very different.
They're all very different.
But being one would make you more powerful, right?
But a lot of the countries got their independence at different. So one of the reasons why I asked you when Jamaica had theirs 60 odd years ago, we had ours, as in St. Lucia, had theirs 45 years ago. So there was a whole 20 years that went past before that independence could go down to a smaller island with a much smaller economy and stuff like that. But you still also need to remember not to get too kind of fixated on this particular topic. But within the Caribbean, there's still a lot of islands that are still part of a mainland country. Martinique is French. They use the franc, and people, they have French passports. We have St. Croix. There are a lot of islands there that are still heavily tied to a larger commodity, i.e. France, Denmark, the UK, the British Virgin Islands. So I understand the point that you're making, but economically, there's a lot that would have to happen to make that happen. There is so much that would have to happen. In the Caribbean, you can see St. Vincent, you can see these other islands from a lot of the countries, but their currency is not the same. So as Wileycat was saying, St. Lucia uses the Eastern Caribbean dollar, Trinidad uses the TT dollar, and Trinidad's economy is one of the highest in the Caribbean because they produce oil. So there's a lot economically you have to look at when you're talking about those kind of things, because the islands are so different in their way. Barbados has a very strong economy on tourism. They don't necessarily do a lot of agriculture. The island's quite flat. It's a very good tourist destination. St. Lucia, Dominica, it's a volcanic island, lots of natural, there's a rainforest, there's all these kind of things. So there's a lot of difference between them. So I'm not saying obviously it's not something that could be done, but we're talking about a lot of work.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to it, and I know it wouldn't be done, but how powerful would it have made them? And when you just even mentioned even the dollar and the money that they use, all right, think about how Europe are attempting or have tried to or doing or have done, have made the euro. The euro is now the same money that everywhere most places in Europe use. They tried to get England on it, and England obviously tried to say to themselves they didn't want to be a part of it. They wanted to obviously keep their strong pound, similar to what you were probably saying in the sense of what Trinidad would probably do in that same circumstance. But it's like, if we had everybody governed under the same rule, and so like America is so powerful. If you think about it, America is just like Europe. They've got so many different. Some of the states are bigger than certain countries, and they've all come and called themselves the United States, and that's how they've made themselves powerful in some senses, because they're all as one. So if we're now looking at us as people, why is not the Caribbean trying to say, well, let's be all as one? And it could even transcend even to the Africans. Why is the Africans not saying, well, we're all as one as well? Why don't we now govern ourselves as one and try and push? And my reasoning that I believe they don't is partly because everybody wants to be on top and nobody wants to give up that same power, like what you said. That's my thought process around why no one would do it.
I don't necessarily think it's necessarily a power issue. I think there's economic impact that would affect local people on the ground level, because there's a big difference between TT dollar and a US dollar. There's a big difference between the East Caribbean dollar and an English pound. If you then change an economy and you say, okay, we're now going to use a different currency, there's a lot of smoothing out that has to happen. I mean, slowly the globe is becoming very close to this one currency thing that they're looking for. But when that does happen, it causes a lot of unrest. I mean, not to get into too much detail, but if you look at Hawaii and those kind of places at the moment, that's one of the biggest problems with those countries, because people from the US are coming there with their big US dollars, spending like they're back in the States, where the average rent is $2,000 a month or whatever the case may be. But the local folk who are living in these islands, excuse me, they're used to paying 200 equivalent, 100 a month. When you've got a big influx from economy that people of same kind of lifestyle, yet still their disposable income, once you come to this country, is so much bigger, it causes a lot of unrest. It destabilizes the country. But look, we don't want to get too much into this. This is the
roundup.
Yeah. He ain't gonna rate me.
I'm going to call it the wound up.
The wound up.
Okay.
This is the wound up. So let's not divulge too much into that.
Indeed.
But we can have an argument about that later.
And even keeping on Jamaica, being it was Independence Day, very, I don't know if it was out of the blue, but it was sort of out of the blue. Vybz Kartel got freed.
Went out of the blue.
So was it expected he would be freed?
Yeah.
I didn't expect to be freed, you know. I thought he'd be retried.
You don't really watch most of the podcast then, because there was one I even mentioned that that King Charles got involved and said about him being freed.
No, I know about the case. I didn't.
Yeah.
I thought they was talking about they were going to be looking at the charges that he had and retrying the whole. It was him and is it Sean Storm? It was him and all about three of them.
They appealed to retrial it. They said they weren't going to do it. Or
and they
like
completely wiped out the charges. He's now a free man. But with him now being a free man, there's a lot of talk about: is it a clone? Is it really him? Why does he look like that?
He died 5 years ago.
What on earth is going on?
Yeah.
I mean, he looks
different.
very, very different. Have we all seen his picture?
He's sick. He's not well.
This is why we can't have this one nation thing that Buddy's talking about, because them Jamaicans will come with them kind of talk about man dying.
And this is the problem. Straight there, you know where not the elevation of progress.
Have
right
you
now.
not heard what these stories that I read an article? What article? It was like a little thing, and they're saying, yeah, that's not him. He died 5 years ago in prison.
I heard that.
And there's some next man that's just profiling to be him. His voice don't sound the same. All of these things. Man's been in prison for 13 years.
13 years.
It's not like it's like 10 minutes. 13 years of being in prison in the Caribbean. Yeah, I don't expect you to come out the same way you're going, personally.
And I think maybe because he was given so much music over that period of time, people were just thinking, oh, because he's consistently putting out so much music, he's just the same.
Yeah.
Nah,
he's
not at all.
Look, he's been through a lot, and the press and information, excuse me, that's been released is that he's unwell.
I think it's Graves' disease, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got like serious illness that's internally affecting his appearance.
That's part of the reason why some people are saying he got released.
Well, when you read the article, and there was a news reporter from Jamaica who called into the UK and they did an interview and whatnot, there is so much information that, I don't know, depending on what side of the fence you're sitting on, is very controversial. He got released on what we may call a technicality, because information wasn't submitted at the right time, and they used information that shouldn't have been submitted, and we made an appeal and this kind of stuff. So he's innocent because the process wasn't followed. Yeah. Not because we're saying that he didn't. Yeah, we're not saying that he didn't do it. We're saying that the process to trial him for what he did was not followed. So therefore, you bust case.
D Smithy 187 says Vybz is AI.
Ask if she's Jamaican.
Artificial intelligence version of Vybz Kartel. Unbelievable. But on the last thing about Jamaica, I'm going to try and move off to Jamaica, but I'm going to try now move also into the Olympics. So did we all see the 100 metres for the men's?
Let's not talk about it.
Why don't you want to talk about it?
Yeah, as our resident Jamaican, please. I think you should have the honour.
No. He's the resident Great British.
Jamaican.
supporter. No, supporting Great Britain. So I would like to know
How can
why.
you tell me who I'm
Oh,
supporting?
sorry.
I'm
The Jamaican,
asking.
please.
Exactly.
Can I-
You're faking who you like. How can you tell me who I'm supporting?
Please.
Like it you know, it wasn't a fuss. No Laos won in it. All right, it was very, very close. There's so many
Sorry.
things.
For those who've been living under a rock, just
The 100 meters was probably the best final ever because it was ran at the fastest time ever in a 100 meters final. Everybody breaking a record, barring I believe it was the person who finished. In fact, I think even the one that finished last, 8th, broke the record as well in it. The fastest loser in that respect. But it was apart from first, that was what it was. It was a good final. The Jamaican should have won it, Kashane Thompson. He should have won it. Didn't, and that's it really.
Why should he have won it? For those who haven't watched the race,
he was the fastest person in the race. He was the fastest. He was the person that was predicted to win it. He was the front runner. He got to the front. He locked up a little bit at the end, and as it got to the photo finish, they finished in exactly the same time. So that was the controversy. There was exactly the same time they went through it. Certain angles could show it looking like Kashane won it, and there's certain angles that would say that Nile won it. So it's like that's where the controversy
so there was
comes
a
in.
tie at the end of the race.
So some people said, why didn't they both just win a medal?
Okay.
Which was said.
Because it wasn't a tie.
I think that's what some people
I'll
said.
be honest with you. The pictures that I saw was very clear. I thought that Noah Lyles had won it clearly. I didn't think there was anything to debate in terms of the photo finish. The way it looked on the camera, I think
It's angles though.
I just saw the Jamaican
Did you
athlete's
say
foot.
angles?
Yeah, it was the angles.
So they use the same camera to judge every race, and you're now saying if you sit behind the column and twist your left eye,
I put
He won.
I put a status up about a day or two. In fact, to be fair, it wasn't my status. It was Rain Man's status. Rain put up a status showing a bird's eye view of it, and then it looked, and he said, "Oh, if I speak, basically, all right." And the bird's eye view saw that Kashane was in front of Nile.
so the camera that they use to judge every race.
In fact, I've still got the
You're
picture.
now
It's
That was a
Because-
CGI generated
because
bird's eye view.
because I
wasn't
think I
CGI,
saw that
it
same
was
picture,
bird's
but
eye.
I had it that Noah Lyles had won the race because of what part of his body had crossed the line. I think, if I'm right, the Jamaican athlete's foot was in front, wasn't it?
It was definitely in front, yeah.
But you have to have your torso or above, if I'm correct, has to be ahead.
Your chest.
There you go.
Yeah. D. Smith
You can pass it down
187 says not foot first, it's the torso.
It's the torso,
So if the torso was in front,
So that's a rule of the.
that's a rule of racing. Yeah, it's a rule of racing. You could have your leg in front. If your torso
This is
is
why
in
they
front,
dip.
But there you
This is
go.
why they
Yeah,
dip.
that's what
pass
it
that
did.
round because that's the actual picture.
I
was
believe. Yeah, I'm sure it's the same one I saw. But from what I saw of
I
it, though,
couldn't care less.
yeah,
He lost.
it's
That's it.
and I think the teachable thing from that, I think from the athlete will be
Read
he won't
the
look
rules.
up. Not even that. He won't look up when he's ahead.
No,
That's what I saw
He wasn't
from it.
used
He
to the
was
pressure.
ahead,
It is what it was.
and that was part of what I was hearing as well. Was that I've forgotten that Justin Gatlin, I think, was saying it, that in terms of
He
them,
said it before the race.
yes, that when this guy was racing, he hadn't raced a
Nobody
competitive.
giving him any challenges.
Yeah, so that was what it was. The pressure got to him, and that's what it was,
Is what it
really.
is.
And small print is important.
Indeed. But then there was also controversy with the women's 100 meters.
When they didn't let my girl go in.
Shelly Ann Fraser, innit?
Yeah.
Didn't get to go through. But didn't the American athlete?
It wasn't just Shirley.
Yeah, I was about to say, wasn't it also the American athlete, Shakira Richardson, had the same issue, couldn't get through that same way?
There was there
Shakira
together.
was in the race.
Yeah, they were there together.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't they couldn't get there.
Yeah, so
It was
explain
to
what
do-
the
It
thing
was to
was.
do with the warm up.
For those that don't know, what exactly happened?
So basically, imagine it's a stadium. You've got, just going to make it very simple, the crowd entrance, you've got the staff entrance, and you've got the players
Competitors.
or the runners or competitors entrance. And there was a procedure of which they changed the day before. This is where it gets a bit weird. They changed this procedure the day before, and
Sorry, just to give you a little bit more detail, the procedure, just for those watching, was that there's a coach that comes in through a main gate.
that's
And
nice.
for whatever security reasons, all the athletes were supposed to be on this coach. If you don't come in on the coach,
only if you stayed in the village.
yeah, if you don't come in on the coach, no one's allowed through.
And she drove.
I don't know if she drove or if she got dropped off or what the case may be, but basically she wanted to go through the gates, not being on the coach as an independent person or whatever the case may be, and security.
And they said no. Now, so they got through, and she didn't do her usual warm-up routine. So, unfortunately, in the semi-finals, she didn't post a time fast enough to get in. I thought she
No,
chose not to run.
Or did she just pull
That's
out
not
injured?
didn't run.
She didn't run.
She chose not to
she
run.
did not.
Did you say she was injured or something?
Yeah.
No, she said
She was in
because
the
she wasn't
final.
allowed to warm up, she's not going to run from cold. Because for an athlete,
No,
that's
but
a very...
she did run a race. She ran a race.
She didn't run the finals. She ran the
No,
heats.
in the heats. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but on the day of... She
Okay,
wouldn't run
okay.
because as an athlete, not warming up and just going
Yeah.
ham on the thing, you're looking for a serious injury on yourself.
So quickly around the room, who do we blame for that?
The procedures.
I don't blame.
Go on. Why do you blame the procedures?
Because it's silly, innit? You're coming through the gate. I know who you are. Do you know what I mean? Because she's not as famous probably, but a tier below Usain Bolt. So Usain Bolt's now coming for in the Olympics that was held in London, his last ones. All right, and he's coming through there. Do you really think to yourself that someone's not going to turn and say that's Usain Bolt? Just let him in.
Okay.
Or you're going to go, procedure is you need to be going on the team bus, so now you're going to miss the final. They're going to say, get your ass in there. Too much money and the amount of money that Bolt would have brought to the thing. There's no way we're going to let Bolt miss out because of that and get that coming on us. No way.
Citrus.
I think I don't blame her, but there's definitely there's a couple failings there. Because if you see the video of her being recorded, which looked like the person was either on a bus or on a coach, wherever the case is, she's not there on her own.
There's a few athletes.
Do you know what I mean? There's a few athletes sitting out there. Do you get what I mean? However, it's still not good enough because if you've got a performance that only takes place once every 4 years, you need the best of the best to be present to take place. And if that doesn't happen, then it's a bit farcical. And then how do you then give it the same credibility? However, in a few years' time, when you look at the 100 meters winner of the Olympics 2024,
You're only going to see the winner, which we're going to come to.
No.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's if I then said to you 1990, I don't know. I'm just going to make it up. 1994 Olympics or whatever. Who came fourth?
No one knows.
No one knows.
No one knows.
Probably could have even named first, second, and third. But the point is, the history books will wipe that away. Do you get what I mean? So that's the part that I'm a bit aggrieved about.
So really?
I don't blame the athlete. I blame the organisers of the whole event. If there is a process in place that you come 4 hours before your match or whatever the case may be, and you have to come on a coach and whatever the case may be, that's what it is. Changing a process through something that's going on, unless you're notifying everybody, handwritten message, knocking on your door in the morning and giving everybody a letter to say, listen, today we've had to change things because of security reasons, whatever the case may be.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not on it. I'm on war. Don't try and tell me on the day, because you have to remember, even if you don't have a process, if you allow something to happen for long enough, that becomes the process.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Got
mean?
you.
If you've got a child and every day your child comes home from school, opens the fridge, pulls out your favorite yogurt and sits there eating it while they're watching TV, and they've been doing that for the last 2 years, all of a sudden you're kicking up stink, trying to close the door on the youth's hand, don't eat my yogurt, it's a problem.
Yeah.
And it's not the child's fault because the child has now grown accustomed to this is the
Is the
procedure.
current procedure,
We
yeah.
never agreed it, but you never opposed it, so therefore it's now the law of the land.
I'm going to touch on, I was going to say, it's going to be one sentence. And I'm sorry for my two St. Lucian brothers in the room, but I have to give you two credit for your first gold medal in the 100 metres. The lady that won it. Proud?
Very good.
Very proud. I was proud of her.
You're not going
I was proud
to
of
say her
her.
name, no?
It was
Julien.
Alfred. Yes.
Oh, right. This I've been waiting for.
Do you know I didn't want to expose the...
This kind of guy.
Go on.
Come on, brother.
All we're saying is, big up St. Lucia.
Yes.
The island has 180,000 people, if that.
On the island.
On the island, yes. And to find a person in that small kind of numbers
With a surname like Alfred.
that can compete on these levels and beat world-class people who have funding, who have resources, who have the government, shut your mouth, this is my time, and all these things behind them. I have to take my hat off to her literally and say, well done. This is a momentous moment for us.
I
Well done,
believe,
St. Lucia.
I believe she actually trained in Jamaica.
Woo!
And that's something that they said. on the
But
country.
that's just the point I said.
She was trained in Kingston.
This is
Or
just the
Jamaica.
point
It does-
I made.
it really-
We do
it
not
really-
have the resources.
It really doesn't
We
matter.
do-
On your point, I'm just saying she was trained
But
in
if you're
Jamaica.
going to be factual,
Just
she
saying.
trains in America.
Well,
She's Dina Asher Smith's training partner.
Well,
So let's just be correct. However, it doesn't matter. This
yeah.
person won the race.
Here's the thing. And
They could have trained on
do you know,
Mars.
do you know why I give St. Lucia credit for it? So Nigeria have had a whole load of issues with our athletes at the
With
Olympics.
stripping us like the registration.
Oh, that was funny.
And this is what I'm going to come to.
Yeah, I don't think funny is the word, though.
This is what I'm going to come to. There's a lady that won the shot put
You're just
for...
busting up.
There's a lady that won the
Nigeria.
shot put for America.
No,
but she's
she won-
actually
She won for
Nigeria.
Nigeria a few years back.
She was competing for Nigeria. There was an
farcical.
issue about her registration. So because she had that issue, she's now competing for America. She actually says in the interview that I watched, I wanted to compete for my motherland. So I wanted to compete for my country. But I had issues about the paperwork. So this before she won the gold. So I just said, you know what? It was straightforward with America. She's going to compete with America. She's won the gold. So it makes you think, if you don't put in for your own people, it's another conversation we're going to have about footballers and people choosing the country they choose for. But if you don't make the effort for your own people, this is the end result you get. So
There's a gymnastic from, she's French,
Yep.
lived in France for most of her life. Her parents are from Kazakhstan or something like that. And there was some issues with, they wouldn't let her train with her own trainer because I think a year or a few months before the Olympics, France, the governing body, asked all the athletes to come and train in their special facilities and whatnot. She didn't want to leave her coach. Wherever she was, like in the sticks, but in France, she said, no, I'm glad with my people. Anyway, they said, you got to come. They forced her, if you don't train with us, you're not competing. She then said, all right, safe. My dad's from where? All right, let's do some research.
Yep.
Applied, got the papers, competed for her dad's, technically her country, and
Yep.
came first. And
This is the thing.
France are now fuming, but these
That's
are the
the
kind
way
of
it
things.
goes.
So taking it back to what I said, for countries that don't have the resources, you have to remember the Caribbean, although we were talking about having these kind of facilities, and that probably would have been a benefit where we could have one particular place where all athletes from the Caribbean could go and train and do all that stuff. That'd be amazing. But St. Lucia doesn't have that kind of resources. The government's not going to throw money at building we did a stadium. I don't know if it's a stadium anymore. It's probably, tell a lie. The stadium that we've got in Viewfort is now a hospital.
Oh, okay.
That's the kind of resource money that we don't have to keep those kind of facilities going and whatnot.
Yeah.
So let's not take it away from her. Wherever she had to go as Mr. Alfred stated, she done it.
The last thing I'm going to say about the Olympics, and it's really, really quickly, is the contrasting controversies about the boxing lady and the uproar behind her, and the lack of uproar about the Dutch guy who was doing the volleyball that has got a rape conviction for raping a 12-year-old, and there's been very minimal coverage compared to the boxer. So for those who don't know, there was a I think she's Algerian boxer who beat an Italian lady, and
Chinese boxer.
yes. But the interesting thing is, the boxing body that has banned the Tunisian lady saying that she had genetic issues is actually borderline viewed as corrupt. That's what the Olympic governing body they say. They said it because they're a Russian body that was having loads of issues with corruption, not to take their things as granted. But that story has overshadowed everything in terms of controversy at the Olympics compared to the volleyball player from Holland, or from Netherlands, sorry, who had raped a 12-year-old. I can't remember how old he was. He was about 18 or 19 or something like that. He'd actually gone online, something about
19 and
grooming.
she was 12.
That's it. But he's now competing. But there's been minimal coverage of that compared to this. Have you heard of the two different stories, and what have you made of the two coverages?
Well, you know when it's going to sound a bit raw. But you know when you have to pick what battle you want to fight? And is the Olympic stage the place to pick those battles? Or do you really want to celebrate these people who have been training, some of them for their entire life, to get the opportunity to show their skills and talents on a stage that's going to be portrayed across the world? Then you have someone like this volleyball player.
Yeah.
And if it was in the UK, you can't work on London Underground.
Yep.
But you're now saying because you have this skill set that fits in with a country's aspiration, we're going to allow it to pass and just say it's cool. What about that 12-year-old? What about their family? What about that town and that city and that community? What about that neighborhood? What about all of those people who have suffered that, disgusting ordeal? What message does it send out? Do you get me? What about the young men or women out there, or old to be fair, who think, I know I shouldn't do it, but potentially I could do it and still represent my country on the world stage. Do you get what I mean? So it sends a very murky message.
Yeah.
So that part I don't like. However, then putting it in context with the boxer, born a female biologically.
Yeah, she's a woman.
Scientifically.
She's a woman.
Scientifically,
she's got high testosterone levels. Like I don't know if you remember, there was an 800-meter runner from South Africa, Caster Semenya, had the same issue. If she's born like that, it's not
condition.
It's not. It's a condition. It's not that to say that she's intersex or anything. She's actually a woman, just got very high testosterone levels. But they've turned it into this whole thing of she was a man, she got X, Y. Yes, it's confusion. But it's interesting, I think, how they've viewed it. But you were saying about the woman boxer. What do you make of what's happened with that?
I think, and I said this before, but I think they should go in the Paralympics.
Why would you say why would you say that? Why would you say that?
Because
Paralympics,
yeah.
Worst thing is,
because if you think about it, let's work with me for a bit.
Yeah, listen.
brother, this stuff is jumping from enough high.
No.
Go on.
If you think about it, if I was born genetically different, right, than every other man, and then we said, due to my genetic difference, I am superior to the rest of you, then is it fair for the rest of you to compete with me knowing I am superior?
you said Paralympics.
I'm going to come to that. Now, in the Paralympics, there are different classes for people that have genetic differences. And in some instances, it's one chromosome that's gone from this side to that side, which has given them the disability which they've got. But if you look at it in the cold light of day, to everyone that's deemed, and I hate quotation marks, but normal, right? If you then line that person up, they are not normal because they have that same, they have a similar genetic defect that's given them the position that they're in. So if you're going to say someone's had a genetic defect, put them in the Paralympics, someone else has had a genetic defect, put them in the normal Olympics, but it's not fair, well, one second, that's what the Paralympics was set up for.
Wow.
Do you get what I mean?
I'll tell you.
So therefore...
So you have a superhuman category.
It's an interesting take.
Mutants, bruv.
It's not mutants. It's not mutants. That's
It's
disgusting.
an interesting take.
And at the end of the day, if we're saying this person has, this is the rationale behind it, then why would you not turn around and say, okay, they're an athlete, they want to compete, let them compete. They're not the only person in the world that has this genetic disorder.
So can I ask a question then?
They're not the only person in the world that has this genetic disorder. So that being the case, let everyone that has this genetic disorder be allowed to compete against each other in a fair manner.
You asked your question quickly. I've got 1 point on the makeup, but go on.
So does that mean if I come from a tribe in Africa where everybody in the village is taller than 6 foot tall, that we should have a special category just for us at basketball or at a sport where height gives you an advantage?
I'm gonna add because it sort of relates into it. Michael Phelps had a body structure where he had genetic. He was he had hyperextended joints, which aided him a lot when he was swimming, and that meant he was able to dominate with his sport. Would he then, from how you're describing it, would you then put him into the Paralympics?
Is he the world record holder in all of the events he took part in?
Yes, he
The
was.
answer is no.
I don't know if he's the world record holder, but I don't know if he's the world.
The answer is, regardless of him winning, is he the world record holder? The answer is no.
But if he dominate, and what I would say in terms of the female boxer is that she didn't dominate. She's actually had the load of defeats. But in terms of him, he dominated when it came to the Olympics.
However, as I said,
world record holder, no.
He's not. So therefore, he cannot be the pinnacle of that genetic disorder, right? Therefore, he has to be classed the same as everyone else. It doesn't matter. Do you get what I mean? At the end of the day, you got the person with the world's biggest hands, the world's biggest feet. Do you know what's the? But you're a basketball guy. What's the man? The
Chinese basketball.
No. The young American mixed race guy who's like 7'6".
I know you're talking about the French dude.
Yeah, he's young. He can
remember his
slam
name,
dunk without jumping.
Yeah, he got drafted early. Yeah,
He got drafted really early. Yeah, so there's this young guy coming through. Is there anything wrong with him? No. He's just different, but it's not. Go on.
So overall, Michael Phelps set 39 world records.
39.
How many of them still stand? No. So that's setting a world record and breaking it, and then breaking it again.
But only 4
and
of those
breaking
world records remain unbeaten.
There you go. And I'll hesitate to guess he's not the individual that has the most world records in the Olympics today.
The one thing I would say in regards to that, and I don't want to prolong on this particular point, but the one thing I would say is that if Michael Phelps is viewed as not the pinnacle, for me, and I've forgotten the name of the lady that was boxing, she's had a number of defeats. She's not even like the best in her category. It's just that it's not like to say she's knocking everyone out. She's not the best in it at all. She's had like about 9 or 10 defeats. So she is defeatable. It's just that this particular controversy has been thrown up and it's made a whole... It's been, for me, I think these Olympics have been very messy.
Yeah.
Very messy. There's been so much controversy.
It feels like PR-wise, they just started off.
It felt intentional though. If I'm being honest, it doesn't feel like it's coincidence that this has happened, that's happened. It's almost like...
Did you know with the a lot of the water events, so you know they do the
canoeing, kayaking, and all
triathlon,
that, yeah?
that they had to keep postponing it because of the quality of the water. But you know why? Because they pump sewage into the water. So they spent a lot of money and a lot of time cleaning up the water. So the French said, 1 second, if you had the time and the money to clean the water up for us, why are you now cleaning up for the Olympics?
Yeah.
So as a protest, they said, come to the riverbank and shit in the water. So as much as they were trying to clean it, the French were like, yeah, do your best, because we're just going to shit in the water anyway.
This is why I said that
every
it's
time
not
the races were taking place, they'll go do a water sample, test it, and it was coming up that the water wasn't clean enough. So this is why lots of the water-based events were delayed. And even the ones that went ahead, they were saying, the conditions are different and unique. You know, just trying to be very, very clever with it. But, I mean, you get what you get.
Madness. But this is the Empty Podcast. I'm going to jump right into it now. This is the Empty Podcast. Myself, Mr Wileycat DJ. And to my left, we have...
Sorelli, ever so slightly broken.
And to my right, we have...
Citrus,
And last but not least, we have...
Buddy in the building, a.k.a. The Truth.
Do you know, I half expected him to say a.k.a. the young thing, you know? I really thought you'd drop it in there. I thought you'd mutate it this week.
Yeah, it's all right. Producer, can you just do some dubbing and editing and young thing up the thing?
This week was going to be the butterfly effect, and it was really... It's going to be a... It's definitely going to be a podcast we will do because there's a lot to say about the butterfly effect. However, after a lot of conversation within the team amongst ourselves, we thought it would be remiss not to talk about the things that are going on right now. and there's everything is going on right now. So where do we start? Do we start with how things
Taylor Swift's dance.
Okay, so let's start from, where do we start? I suppose you can start from the rioting that's happened in the last, is it the last week? The last week or so.
Week and a half now.
Yeah, week and a half. And it has come from the viewpoint has been that he said it is from the protests of the murder of three young girls in Southport by a 17-year-old boy. I say boy because he's not a man yet. 17-year-old boy from Wales, I believe he's from, born and raised. However, he's from Rwandan parentage. And then it's gone all over social media that he was a refugee, he was Muslim, all sorts of things have come out, and there's been a whole cacophony of rioting and all things going on. From that, we've now found ourselves in a situation where it seems like those that are, I don't want to say marginalized, but those that are the minorities in this country are under attack. What is going on? I'll go across to Citrus.
Yo. We had an empty telephone conversation. So I called the group. And within the whole group, having this conversation was really, really interesting. And during the conversation, we spoke about the exact same issue and what was going on and what caused the problems. Interestingly, the feedback that came in from the guys, do you know what I mean? The different thoughts on what's causing the, so where's this all coming from and whatever else. I saw an interview by, what's my man's name?
Andrew Tate?
No, Robinson. Robinson?
Wow.
Oh, Tommy Robinson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where he was being called or sanctioned for the inciting of the far right and these protests / riots. And he said, interestingly, it's not my fault X amount of boats are coming in. It's not my fault you've allowed immigrants to do this. It's not my fault. So he's talking directly to the British government, if you get what I mean, on a post. It's not my fault you've allowed this to do this. It's not my fault you've allowed this to happen. And due to all of these things happening, now people are standing up for what they believe in and basically standing present. Now, taking away all of the other aspects of what's going on, which is disgusting, I do not disagree with the direction of the conversation. The execution of the actions are crazy, but the direction of the conversations, I understand. So, just to simplify, for everyone to understand.
Because you know someone's going to hear what you're saying and think you're...
Just
to clarify exactly what you mean.
When you are... So, Britain, it's actually a very interesting setup, how this very small, tiny island almost colonized the world. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Now, during all of this colonization process, they were very clever. They turned around and said, we don't need to grow sugar. They're going to do it over there in the Caribbean. We don't need to do tea. They're going to do it over there in India. We don't need to produce X. They're going to do it over... We're just going to rule these lands. Do you get what I mean? We're going to focus on finance. We're going to focus on steel. We're going to focus on insurance. And we do those things well. We know everything else has to come through us, and we control the language. And our sovereignty looks the strongest, so potentially it'll be the most trusted. With that, they had these massive ports, and all of the riches and spoils from all of these other countries were coming into the UK, being repackaged and then sold back out to the rest of the world. Yeah, so shipping-wise, one of the best in the world, right? And you needed somewhere to process all of this stuff. Do you know what I mean? They had the coal mines, they had there were, I can't remember what the actual term is, but they were refining steel, they were doing all sorts, and they set up towns specifically to deal with this influx of whatever they were working with. As time progressed and we spoke about countries getting their independence and whatever else, these countries took back their resources and said, you know what, actually we'll do with our own sugar and salts, we're going to deal with our own X, Y, Z, we're going to do it all ourselves, we don't need you.
Like I said about the French colonized countries in West Africa, how they taking it all back here.
So when they took it all back, and now you've got, I'm just going to pick a county, I'm going to say in, I don't know, give me a county, guys.
Thank you, Sean.
Durham, you said?
Yeah.
So in Durham, where we used to produce steel and make cars and make engines and make planes, we now have no need for that because we're not producing the same level of steel.
Yep.
Because that's now being done in China or in Taiwan. So what you've then done is you've taken this town that was based on, we're just going to produce all of the manufacturing for steel, and said we're taking the industry away and we're giving you nothing back. Obviously, that town, over time, is going to lose their workforce. It's going to lose any currency that was being generated locally. So therefore, it's going to lose some of its people. And then eventually, that town's just going to be left to rot. Repeat this process in all of these towns that weren't, and you know, obviously, London sits way outside of all of this. So where us living in London are oblivious to it. But now you've got all of these towns that don't have a pot to piss in and have no natural, for example, way of generating an income or generating employment. So it's not like the steel factory closed down or the coal factory closed down and you opened up a new factory or a new business to be able to now fulfill the 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 people that live there. You're now left with nothing. So this is why now, when people from London make a bit of money and they want to invest in property, what do? Let's go up north. Why? Because the people up north can't afford anything. So their properties are going to be cheaper. So what we can do is, we're not going to be able to buy a house or a flat in London because that costs $500,000. But I can go to Durham, because Sorelli mentioned Durham. I'm going to go to Durham, I'm going to buy them for 30 grand. But now I'm on the property ladder. People in Durham are like, well, one second. We live here, our family's here, all of our generations are from here. We can't buy here. So there's more uppress. So, and I know this sounds a bit long-winded. This is just a weird theory that I've got. Now, essentially, you've got all of these areas who have now dropped below a working class standard. You know, they're below a working class standard. And then, with the government policies and the way legislation has been going and these treaties that have been signed and the whole idea of immigration, is influxes of new people are coming in and being catered for. This is the perception.
That's the
and
perception.
this is what's being pushed out there, pumped in by the media, right? That these people are being catered for. So the people that are there thinking, oh, 1 second, we had a thriving community maybe 10, 15, no, maybe 25, 30 years ago. Now there's no work and the area is just let to run down, but you're going to bring people in, put them in hotels and keep them there. And how do you spot the difference between me and them? They're brown and I'm not brown. So therefore, it's your fault. So I'm pissed off with you. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take it out on you because I've been told you're going to rape our daughters. Do you know what I mean? You're going to sell drugs to our sons. You're going to bring the area down. You're going to do all this stuff. And I'm not going to turn around and say these communities that have come into different areas haven't come with certain problems. But now this is being pumped in and pumped in and pumped in. Yeah, we've now got a new issue. So this new issue just needs something to spark it off. And unfortunately, the issue that took place in Stockport has Southport, excuse me, has been used as the catalyst to galvanise all of these people that are pissed off, right? Don't get me wrong, some of them are racist. Let's just be straight. It is what it is. But you've now got a common issue where you can get these people riled up and now they're trying to mobilise and do something about it. The same thing happened when the British, so when we had to vote on the EU referendum.
Brexit, yeah.
Brexit and all of that. The same thing. They turned around and said, oh, do you remember, we're going to look our borders and blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's close ranks. Let's vote for Brexit. 1 second, Brexit happens. Oh, there's actually less work. And now there's less doctors and less nurses and less restaurants and less... 1 second, well, this didn't work. Well, 1 second, it's because they used the same fear that's being used now to push whatever program they're trying to push. And my final point on this, today I saw an article where Keir Starmer said, for those that are rioting, we now need to start using facial recognition technology to be able to recognise those rioters. And I was just like, wait, what? Do you know what I mean? So your country's in the shit. It's got to the stage of where, and I'll let the boys talk about the incidences that have happened, but you've got this going on, and you're going to come out and say, we've got tech that's going to recognise Buddy's eyes from Citrus's eyes, from Sorelli's eyes, so you can wear a balaclava or a mask. We're still going to know who's who. Wait, what? Do you know what I mean? Because in my head, if the uprising was the reverse, and you had all brown people or all Muslims or whoever you want doing the madness, and sorry this is long, guys, I apologise, but if you then reversed it the other way and said, oh, we forgot that over the last 200, 300, 400 years, we had to go to your countries and do what we did there, therefore inviting you over or bringing you over, some against your will, but now you're here, there's a problem, what are we going to do about it? Come on, it doesn't wash. So there needs to be something, some form of understanding, but as I said, if those people, us people, were doing the same thing, I know the police would have been mobilised in a much more aggressive way. There would have been Section 20s or Section 60s out that would have just did blanket curfews. Do you know what I mean? This would have happened. The army would have been mobilised. They would have been visible. Do you know what I mean? Remember what happened during the London riots?
The 2020 riots.
The 2020 riots.
Yeah, 2010s?
No,
2014.
So
yeah.
remember those riots?
Yeah.
You saw army vehicles driving around. Do you get what I mean? However, this has been going on, and I ain't seen no one last thing.
Not
so
a thing, no.
In my head, I'm like, the other side of the coin. Someone said to me when I spoke about on a group that half of the people there in the far right are probably in the army.
Which is a very interesting take.
Sorry, lads.
I can see Sorelli's hand was twitching. Buddy's hand was going like this. I'm going to go to Sorelli. I'm going to go to Buddy. There's a couple of things I want to touch on what he said, but Sorelli,
so
what is going on?
As my brother over there said, there's one thing I do agree with him. This whole riot, this whole situation that's happening, let's be clear. This has nothing to do with this young man and the incident. The information that was released was incorrect. People know it's incorrect, and they're still using it as this, kind of red rag to the bulls. The argument was he's Muslim and this and that and the other, and it's to do with religion. The young man isn't Muslim, so therefore there is no connection with that. Let's squash that straight away. From where I sit, and when I look at the economy of the country, and to touch on a couple of things that Citrus said, I reckon you're absolutely right, 100%. If it was brown folk, ethnic folk out there causing this, tanks would be out on the streets. Number one. Number two, it's not happened in London yet. We've had a collection of people come together in Walthamstow. There were people out on the streets.
10,000.
For the counter-protest.
For the counter-protest.
Counter-protest, yeah.
So London is very different, as my brother over there said. It's a melting pot. So I'm putting myself in this, us who live in London, we're cocooned from what's going on outside of the M25. We've got this, Turkish shop across the road, Indian shop the other side of the road, a Pakistani shop the other side of the road, a Greek shop. We have this kind of, everything is accessible, everything is there. There's a lot to do, there's a lot of distractions, there's so much going on. London's vibrant. Again, as you just said, when you go outside of London, they make it sound like England as a whole is overpopulated and it's this and that and the other. When you look at the landmass, they've built on maybe 10, 13% or not even built on, maybe 8% is built on. The rest of the land has been reserved for parks and these kind of things. But as an island, we're less than 12% built on. As an island. So when you say, oh, there's nowhere to live, there's no house, there's enough land for them to build on if they want to do that. It's not being done. Now, the crazy thing is, when you stand back and you look at it, the French will riot for nothing. What? We can't have croissants on a Tuesday. That's it. Vive la France. They will burn down the place. England is slowly starting to realize this and starting to adopt this kind of behavior. The riots are a distraction. Citrus is 100% right. People are struggling. When they riot, yeah, they're damaging homes and they're turning over cars and whatnot, but then the rioting, quickly evolves to looting. People are running down the road with TVs and trainers from JD's and this and all other sports brands and whatnot. And this is becoming a way of life. People are on just using an excuse to do whatever they want to do. Now, like Citrus, I've got a theory. In the next couple of weeks, there'll be a distraction. The government will put some crap together and it will distract everybody and everybody will go back to their normal way of life. There will be something in the press, something's going to happen. It's happened through history. If you read back, the Romans did it. They opened Colosseums. Let's give people this. You give people a little bit of a distraction and everything goes away. There's jokes going around saying football season's not started, which is why they've got these people around on the road doing. And as dumb as it sounds, it's actually true to a certain extent. Oh, it's not for all of them, but this is it's a distraction. Paris right now, they were rioting and doing all this madness. Olympics starts, all that part of it is quieting down. Yeah. Now, it may quieten down for 6 weeks or whatever, and then hopefully by then something else will come up to keep the people busy. Because the government are using things like this. Sid just mentioned about the cameras, which is, I'm glad you did because it was something I saw as well.
Yep.
And we don't realize it, but they did all this to put up these cameras for ULEZ and all these things. And I always said, I think I even said it on the podcast, do you think they're going to spend this much money to put up this much tech and equipment and cameras, and the main purpose for this is to catch man out with old cars? Because you have to remember, organically, in a few years, all the old cars are going to go anyway. Most people don't even buy a car now. They're on a lease thing. Yep, 3 years, next one. So we've got high turnover of vehicles anyway. So a bit like such as I'm on a rant now, but there is so much to uncover about this thing that when you sit back and you look at it, don't look at the immediate, flowers and distractions and whatnot. I guarantee you, the stock markets are crashing. That people are struggling. The finances are not there. People cannot live what we would consider to be a normal way of life. People are struggling. Things are going up.
Yeah, economy is definitely hit.
And they're using this as a way to say, you know what? Yeah, let me mash up this, let me do this, let me do that. It's because of you, it's because of that. It's because it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. And the educated people that are driving this thing, sitting back looking at it, are laughing. Let's wind them up, send them out there, let them go do all this madness. And then in the end, we'll win. We'll make whatever money we need to do. Now the cameras are going to be used for other things, which makes perfect sense because if you've just spent, let's say they spent £1 billion on putting all these cameras up and all it's doing is catching a couple cars that I can honestly say comfortably, within the next 3 to 4 years, all these cars that they were catching will be off the roads anyway. So what do we do with the money? What do we do with the cameras now?
Use them for whatever.
We need to find another way to generate money from it. We need to find another progress. We need to find other ways that we slid into the system without you watching while you're sleeping and turned it into something.
Buddy, what is going on?
Do you know what? First off, I need to make a correction. It wasn't 2014. It was 2011.
It's around. Yeah, I was thinking about it.
Yeah. But I used the word in our group before. I said I was proud of the people. I am proud of the way the people reacted in the sense of I knew, like has been said, there was never going to be the type of people coming over into East London or even London and feeling to themselves that they was going to come and we're just going to tear up the thing and it's going to be a madness. I said there's too many diverse cultures that are within East London that would basically stop that from happening. There was no way it was going to happen. And I stuck to that, and it happened. There are 10,000 people up in Walthamstow. And I thought, well done. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't no, like, a couple shops boarded up their windows because in anticipation of there being violence, and there was none. And to that extent, and what they was thinking it was going to be. That side of things I was proud of. I do still say, and I said this will be an opportunist time, which has been something that Sorelli said, where I feel people then turn and use it to go and loot, to go and beat up a man over there or this guy over there, and turn it into violent protests, right? Where it hasn't been that in the large majority. It hasn't been that from the right wing side. It hasn't been that. So it's like we haven't been doing violence. We're doing more. We're trying. It's protesting and making sure that we're not victims to whatever violence that they're trying to put towards us. And that side of things, again, proud of. I'm saying, well done. From the other side, when you're saying it's a distraction, yeah, there'll be a distraction. I mean, it's just it's the way of life. I mean, that's with everything. How long did it take us to finally get over COVID? Do you know what I mean? We was on COVID for so long, something happened and boom, forgot about COVID. Do you know what I mean? Now no one even talk about COVID. No one's dying from COVID no more. A disease doesn't just disappear. But all of a sudden, we don't talk about it. It's not in the news. It's not at high volumes. It's not even at medium volumes. No one don't care. Like, so eventually it will be something that is going to be swept under the carpet. Maybe it might be football season in 2 weeks' time. All right, that just turns and says, oh, well, what riots? I don't care anymore. It's gone. Do you know what I mean? It's funny because when we was doing the podcast, we was going to do the podcast this week about the butterfly effect. It was something that I was going to put in there to turn and say, there will be a catalyst for everything. And maybe, like what was been said, maybe there is unrest underneath the skins where people are upset about not having jobs or not having their way about certain things. And then the murders that happened of the young ladies, this is now the catalyst that said, oh yeah, now we're gonna riot. But if that didn't happen, something else might have happened. Do you know what I mean? It might just been, Muslim guy dropped a cup. Now we must riot. You know what I mean? It might have been something as stupid as that. There was always going to be a catalyst in the way that Citrus was saying it before, that something would have made everybody riot because there was something, there was unrest, there was a reason they wanted to do it, regardless of what their actual point is now. Because to be fair, does some of those people that are rioting even understand the points of why they're rioting, or are they just doing it because it's something to? They said, yes, it's to keep out immigrants. That's not what the riots were about in the first place. That's not what the original protest was actually about. The original protest was about the girls, and it changed from the girls into, let's say that we want immigrants out there and we don't want them in our country, and now it's gone back to all this foolish racist stuff, and now we're protecting it. It's losing its meaning, and this is something that happens within all these riots. Even when you look back at the London riots and the Mark Duggan thing, it started to lose its meaning. Like, what was you actually writing for? If you go and ask some of the guys, they would say, I was writing so I can get a TV. I was writing so I can get a pair of trainers. I mean, I heard we could just walk into JD's and pick them up. Do you know what I mean? What was you actually writing for? They don't even remember what the original reasons for the riot was, and about somebody getting shot by police unlawfully, and they felt to themselves that was why the whole thing started. People lose the meanings. The catalyst is one thing, but they lose the meaning. The meaning is probably similar to what Citra said, is there's unrest for certain other reasons, and maybe that's what the people need to get to the bottom of.
I'll tell you what. So my take on the situation is a bit broader. So for a start, I don't think it started with the 3 girls that were murdered. I don't think that was the actual start of it. I think you go back further to the whole rhetoric, because if you look at it, we had the election. When was the election? Back at the start of last month. And if you look at the general election, there was a number of, I've forgotten the name of the party now. Reform members voted into Parliament. They were voted into Parliament because there was an undercurrent of feeling, driven a lot by the previous government, of anti-migrants, anti-Muslim, anti-other. Anything that was other. And what was, for me, I found was quite disappointing was that a lot of that rhetoric was coming from people who would be classed as migrants and other themselves. Very strange. And what it allowed to happen, as far as I saw it, was it allowed for the people that had these views, that was hiding behind the wall saying racist things, to be emboldened to say racist things in public. Knowing that there was no comeback for them. So now you've gone from a point of saying things that are racist in public and having these racist views and maybe teetering on the edge of it to now being able to say these things openly. I mean, look, we spoke about, go back a couple months, we spoke about what happened with Diane Abbott when she was being threatened effectively by the guy saying that all black women should be killed. That she should be killed, that he hates black women like her, she should be killed. Madness. Nothing happened from that. And that was a groundswell of things happening. I don't think that these murders of these young girls was a catalyst. I think it was just an excuse. And I don't think it was, I believe it was coordinated. I get the impression I get is that this wasn't just random people, oh, we're going to protest. This has been a coordinated effort by people who wanted to go out there and actually just do civil unrest on this reasoning. And they've been bubbling up for a long time. It's just that we've not paid attention to it as a nation, but as a nation, we haven't been on top of it. And we've allowed certain things to come to the mainstream to the point where now, I don't know how you now reel it back. Because think about it. Let's just look at the people that are rioting. They were doing so bold, open, no balaclavas on, bold face in front of the camera, not caring. Even with the 2011, 2010 riots, people were still knowing that they were going to cover themselves up on that. These people are going out there and they're boldened by it. They don't care.
I mean, one of the things I saw, which I really didn't like, I think it was horrible, was there was an Asian guy, he was trying to walk down the road. And no, there was, first they were doing it with cars. It was making sure the cars, you're getting checked, you're getting G-checked. If you're not white, you ain't getting past. And they was doing this little blockade thing. Then there was this guy that was walking past, Asian dude. He's walking past now, and the one guy just walks over to him. One's shouting at him. He's trying to walk past and just trying to ignore it. One other guy just comes over and punches him in his face. Now he can't even do nothing. So he takes the punch in the face. He turns around. I'm gonna go the other way. There's too many of them. If I punch back, they're all gonna start, and then I'm just gonna get rushed. So he turned around, walked the other way. I said, that's it's bullying. Do you know what I mean? On a human level, that's just not right. I don't like bullies, and I always think to myself that I can't stand those type of people. So when I now see the reverse of one sitting there trying to get into people's faces, I think there's a video that Citrus sent me earlier on, a guy trying to get in everyone's faces. I think he's throwing the Union Jack around, and then the guys jump him. I didn't feel sorry for him because you're still trying to throw your weight to say, yeah, come on then, I'm mightier than you. Get your beating, as far as I was concerned at that point. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's too many people getting very, very brave and doing really horrible and narcissistic stuff out there. It's not right.
My question is, are you surprised by what's happened? Are you surprised at the level of what's happened, or are you surprised at all that it's happened?
I'm not surprised it happened. I, as you rightly said, from Brexit, when Brexit was going down, the amount of things that were being published that weren't fact-checked, that people were using as common conversation, as in it's acceptable, and it almost empowered people to say, well, I'm racist, yeah, and what? It became a term of, yeah, I'm strong, and what? It's what I am. And that went on. And not to kind of, throw the whole theory thing way out there, but when Donald Trump came into power, that was something that the world had a shift, because we now have someone who's also in a position of great power, who's actually, condoning these things.
Broken.
Sorry?
Ever so slightly broken.
Ever so slightly broken, bruv. He was more than slightly broken, brother. He was on smoke. And for me, it wasn't a case of. It's hard to say, but my biggest fear when he was in power was how he managed to incite people, but most of all, he didn't. It's like his level of intelligence to realize what he was saying or how he was saying it or what the outcome of what he does. The guy stood on TV talking about how he used to grab women. I'm like, brother, you're saying this in front of everyone? You spoke about, COVID and bleach. Yeah, scientists, we're going to do something with bleach, yeah? We're gonna make up some remedy and sprinkle some bleach and some heat, yeah? We need heat kills. And he's comfortable saying this. And we have to admit there are people in the world who live, die, and, you know, their phone, their TV, whatever it says is gospel.
Yeah.
If they see a reel on TikTok or one of the social media, this is factual. This is life. I don't need to fact check. I don't need to look into it. This is what it is. So having that kind of exhausted information, propaganda just being bombarded at you every day. I mean, God bless them. There's people in my family that will send me stuff. And these are elderly people. Somebody sent them something and they're like, oh my God, this, and send it to me. And I'll look at it and then I'll go and do a little research and I'll see the truth and then I'll copy, paste it, send it back to them. Please don't send these things around. And these are people of color. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we'll probably receive the one with the motorbikes on the A406.
Yes.
That was last year.
Last year or a few years ago, whenever it was,
Memorial.
but totally unrelated.
Unrelated to this, yeah.
Totally unrelated. And yes, I got it from that member of the family as well. Send it to me. Look what's going on. Be careful. Don't drive down the A406. So this whole rhetoric of what's going on is going to keep on happening. It's not going to stop. And like I said, it's only next podcast, we'll be sitting down there talking about, yeah, this has now happened and this is now the highlight and now everybody's distracted from it because that's what the government has to do. It has to get everybody back in line, paying their taxes, going to work and doing these things because that's what they need from us.
Can I now say something really
Are you
controversial?
surprised, first of all, before you say something, are you surprised at what happened?
Am I surprised? Yeah, a little bit.
Why?
But, I'd rather go on my point before I go into
Go on,
that.
go on.
Yeah, it'll make me lose my trail of thought.
Go on.
But I'm going to say something really controversial, and please let me out of here afterwards, guys. Please, and don't come for me. But do you know what? Something that Citrus said that kind of just resonated to me. We're talking about our view. And remember, we're all from London or live in London, all right? And we're very secluded to things that happen outside of London. Do you know what I mean? So we've got these other people, different races from us, all right, and they've got a viewpoint. Do you know what I mean? And what their viewpoint is, it might not resonate or be all right for myself and what I see and what we see, but they've got a viewpoint. And their viewpoint might be, do you know what? You blacks, you Londoners, you whatever they want to call us, all right, are stealing my jobs. Before you lot came into this country, I was able to get a job. You know what I mean? I was able to go and work in the factory, like you said. I was able to do this. And now you lot are stopping me. All right, have I not got a right to protest, to say I want it back to how it was when my granddad was growing up and then my dad was growing up? And you know, it's slowly but surely got worse and worse. And I want it to stop. I want it to go back to how my granddad had it when we had our big farm and we was rich. So why are we not allowed to now protest for that? Do you know what I mean? I'm just giving a diverse
Alternative
view.
view.
Yeah. Please
Okay.
don't come for me, people. I'm
gonna come to that point as well. But you said you're not surprised. Why are you not surprised?
Well, partly because of that statement. Like, at the end of the day, when we get to a point where we've got so much unrest about whatever our views are and whatever we're upset about, there gets to a point where we're gonna blow. And it might just take the smallest thing. And there's something that I suppose most Citrus and Sorelli would probably be able to relate to with myself, all right, is I used to do a thing where I used to just bottle things up. And it could be anything. I'll bottle it up, I'll boil it up, I'll boil it up. I won't say nothing. I'll leave it alone. And then one day, it'll be something so stupid, something that doesn't even, I don't know, you knocked over my cup, or you didn't give me a cup. Now I'm ready to cuss the world. And everyone's like, why are you acting like that? Well, I'm not acting like that because of the cup. What I'm actually acting up about is about the other 10 things that I was already vexed about, which I never said anything about. But now you knock my cup, now I'm going to blow up on you. And if you take that out into other people's realities and how they see things, especially when we're not in power or we're powerless to do anything, because as much as we're running the podcast and we're doing this and we're saying our say and we've got social media to voice our opinions and whatever else not, what change can we actually make amongst it? So when you want to now say to yourself, well, we're going to riot and we're going to blow up that shop, we're going to blow up all the white people's shop that we can, because that's going to make a stand. Then yeah, they blow over my cup. Now that's what we're going to do. We've got enough of us together to do that. Let's go and do it. So if you're going to sit there and say, am I surprised? No. Like they're trying, they've obviously, like Citra said, they've got to a point where there is something that's bothered them and something needs to be rectified. All right. I'm not making them right. I don't think they've got any, there's no right in being horrible to other people because of their skin color or their religion. Do you know what I mean? Those things that don't wash with me, all right? But at the end of the day, these are the idiots that we're dealing with that still live in the world and they're still a part of the world. And you know where you want to be godly and you say to yourself, God loves everyone. All right, so as much as we want to sit there and say, oh yeah, he's not going to like him, God loves everyone. So we're going to sit there and say that they just need to be taught. And I'm looking at it thinking they need to be taught. And yeah, there's a side of us and there's loads of us out there probably listening to saying, yeah, they need to be taught by us teaching them a lesson. And maybe that's the lesson that we need to teach them. But at the end of the day, they need to be taught in some way or some form. They need to be taught these lessons to understand to themselves what they're doing is wrong.
Can I ask about a quick question now that you said that? Do you think there can be a positive outcome from the riots on what you've just said?
From the funniest thing is, a positive outcome, it depends on what side you're looking at, but there will be change. They'll do something to change something. So even when you said about the cars, and I started, funny enough, it took me into a little bit of a trance, and I was sitting there thinking about it. I was thinking, oh yeah, what are they going to do in 10 years' time? You said 3. I'd say 10, 15 years' time. We've all changed our cars now. So what are they doing with them cameras? Are they now that we had riots before, now they're used for facial recognition? And they said, oh, there's now a security reason or whatever. I said, oh, that would make sense. I understand why they were doing it, because now the way it will be portrayed to us is it will be for our safety. So when you start doing things like that, we're doing these riots and thinking we're doing great things to push that. We're pushing certain other agendas. And whether it's going to be right or wrong, they're going to try and do things for our safety. We might not see it as our safety, all right, but they're trying to do it for the fact that we shouldn't have riots out there. I shouldn't feel to myself, I've got a shop out there, I need to board up my shop today because you guys are going to come and riot because of whatever reason. I shouldn't feel so. Now they've got the cameras up there. Cameras up there. As soon as your face gets recognised, we go in jail, mate. Do you want to do that? Now I feel safer. Now I don't have to put a board up on my thing. So there are changes that are going to be made because of it. What those changes are, I'm not at that level to actually understand what changes they're going to make, but there will be changes from it.
Citrus, are you surprised? And just to add to what Zarelli said as well, can you see any positives from what's happening?
Am I surprised? No. Does it need to happen? Yes.
Does the rioting need to happen?
The unrest.
Or the unrest.
The unrest needs to happen. Because how many years were Conservatives in power?
14.
So 14 years, right? And let's not forget how strong the UK economy is worldwide. Yeah? Worldwide. But yet still, you have people in the UK living a lifestyle below many of the countries with a much weaker economy. So that says to you, mismanagement is being taking place somewhere. And as the government or the politicians that are in charge are not doing anything about it, eventually the people are going to say they've had enough. The election results have showed you one thing. How long do you give Labour, who are now in power, the opportunity to fix it? Or do you need to force a new change? So if the unrest forces a new change, that helps those people that Buddy mentioned whose story we can't tell because we haven't lived their life or their granddad's lives or their, you know what I mean, however many generations back's lives. If it affects change that improves the majority of people's lives, even if some have to suffer, and I use that very, very loosely, then why not?
Can I question you? What, and this is just a really broad kind of, what can a government actually do?
A hell of a lot.
Give me an example.
The policies that are in place generically do not suit the masses. And if you've got policies that do not suit the masses and suit the few, only the few will prosper through these policies. And when you have years and years and years of policies that only favour the few, the masses then start to uprise. So and that's what's happening now.
Basically, the rich stay rich, the poor stay poor.
That's always been the case, and that will never change. But so are you talking about things like laws that we have that half of us here don't actually know of, understand, or can even comprehend, even if they gave you the law to read? Because the English law or judicial system has been written 200-300 years ago for a time when horse and carriages used to roam the streets and people used to throw their feces outside their windows. So is it because you're saying as an economy, as a country, as modernization has happened, the government or the country hasn't moved with those times?
No, they haven't moved with the times. And now, beforehand, the So beforehand, those in control were those that wielded the power. Now, unfortunately, the control is being shifted.
Or has the ability to shift.
No, the control is being shifted now. But how it's being shifted, or the power of the internet, can now dictate what's happening.
When you say shift, give us something. What do you mean?
There might be a riot in Walthamstow, 10,000 people turned up. 1 million, 2 million, 5 million people saw the video of these 10,000 people in Walthamstow. But it's bigging them up. However, 6 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, a young black boy was killed by...
I was going to come to that.
The white guy.
In Hainaut.
With a sword.
In Hainaut.
Right. How many thousand people were in Walthamstow, do you know what I mean? Protesting. So I'm not saying that we devalue his life and value the lives of these other children. It's not about pitting one against the other. What I'm turning around and saying is how society is now, the power of social media, the internet, whoever's now wheeling and dealing these messages. There's a reason why we're getting certain messages on our phone and certain algorithms or results on our search engines and whatever social media networks that we go onto will then help sway conversation. And if it sways the conversation in a way that has us all thinking, oh my gosh, it's all their fault, then that's what we're going to think.
I think to add on to what you're saying there, it was an interesting point. I can't remember the radio personality's name, but he did say it on LBC, and he was talking about nobody was rioting when the young black boy was killed by the man with a sword in Hainaut. But what I found is interesting more than that is I believe that the whole way this has been, the misinformation was put out in this particular scenario, it was such a concerted effort. I mean, there was people, they're talking about Andrew Tate had sent out stuff, what's his name, Nigel Farage had asked certain questions in a framed way to galvanise people. And I think that is what it comes down to. When we're talking about, when you're talking about a positive outcome, the only way that I can see a positive outcome from this is if people become more unified. That's the only positive. I can't see. I can't see any positives from this rioting because, and I was going to touch onto it next, but I'll touch onto it now. Really, it's created a climate of fear for people who didn't have a climate of fear around them before, and I mean in the sense of every generation or couple of years, there's people that become the target. For the 70s or the 60s and 70s, it was the Irish. For the 80s, 90s, it became the black people. Later on, it's become the Muslim people. Everyone becomes a target. What we're now seeing, though, is that this particular scenario has made everyone who is other become a target. I can't see a situation where anyone can feel that that's going to be positive apart from bringing people together. Yes, we saw how many thousands of people all together in all these counter-protests. My concern is, though, my mum goes to a Nigerian mosque. I am now concerned when she goes to a mosque when I wasn't even concerned before because she dresses as a Muslim. Now, obviously, I know that they attack Muslim people, they attack certain other races as well, but this heightened period of fear has created a situation where I don't even feel comfortable her going out of the house. She's not comfortable with me going to work. It's creating much more than just certain areas becoming targeted. It's actually becoming a thing where everyone is feeling fearful. And I don't know how we turn that into a positive. So you know,
let me, and this is ever so slightly broken, but maybe you needed that reminder.
Why?
Because it's the reality of what's out there. The fact that it's been said in shadows, in secret, behind closed doors, and all these things shields you from it directly, but indirectly it's still there. So, yes, you're right. 10,000 people turned up in Walthamstow to unite and stand against this. Now, I can't sit here and tell you that, excuse me, that it's made some people unite more, or that it's actually done the opposite and made more people look at their neighbors and think, actually, you're Muslim, and you know what, you don't talk to me. You come out of the house and, yeah, I got to watch you. I can't tell you what the result of that is, if more people have come in or gone out, you know, metaphorically speaking. But I do believe that, and it's not a win. It's not a, so I can't call it a positive thing, but it gives me comfort that this has now made everybody snap for a minute. You've got that moment of clarity where you're, you know what, actually, this laughing hee kiki and this kind of thing that I'm going on with everything, like everything's hunky-dory. I'm here, I'm doing what I have to do, but I still need to have my wits about me. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like when you have your kids and you tell them, you know what, when you go out, be safe. And like, yeah, I'm safe. And they go out and they do things like, I don't know, open their wallet and not think about what they're doing and whatnot. They're just blasé about doing things. Things like this happening makes you realize and understand. Not keep yourself to yourself, but keep your wits about you. Because there are people out there that don't like you. And there's nothing you can do to change that.
But do we need this situation to happen?
No.
For that to be the teachable lesson we take
No,
from it?
we don't. But it's a case of it's happened. And now, everybody of colour is alert again. Everybody is reminded that, yeah, you know what? I do need to understand that if something happens, I am now the enemy straight away. I'm the target. I am this person. Yes, I'm cocooned and I'm comfort, especially in London. I'm shielded in London and I don't know what's going on. But you drive outside of the M25 for 10, 15 minutes, it's a different world. It is a different world. You're treated different. Obviously not everywhere. Please, just don't take this as this is a blanket. But as soon as you come outside of London, you know, people still don't realize that the percentage of ethnic people or people of colour within the UK, we're still in what, 10%? We're in low numbers. When you're talking on the grand scheme of things, they're making up all this noise and whatnot for what, 8%? 8%. When you sit down and you think of those numbers realistically on a grand level, it's idiotic. It doesn't make sense. You're blaming everything that's going wrong on 8%. The economy is failing. It's because of these 8%. There's no homes for people. 8%. Oh, they're taking all our jobs. What jobs? 8%. I remember watching something on thing where they were saying that a lot of these people that come here that don't have these papers and don't have these things, they're doing those menial jobs. They're cleaners. Do you know what I mean? They're doing those kind of jobs that the average person doesn't want to do because they're in what they would consider to be a better class. As Citra said, I should be able to live and have a big TV. I should be able to go on holiday twice a year with my family. I should be able to buy a big screen TV and put one in every room. I should be able to have the latest phone. Should be able to buy the latest clothes. These people that are out here suffering, struggling, doing what they're doing, they're not taking your jobs. They're working 5 times harder because they have to start from ground zero.
Ground zero. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't make sense. And like I said, if you want to see the positive or the outcome of it, it's now woken up the people that weren't awake, that were just eyes closed and just walking blind through life.
Citrus, I saw your hand was waving like you was about to be waving a flag there.
Red flag.
I don't. The opening point, he ended quite well, but the opening point I disagree with. The moment your mum starts to fear going to a place of worship because of the ideologies of others, this is not a way you should live your life. That's how you suppress people, you know? And if you then scale that across what Sorelli mentioned as 8%, that is extremely dangerous. That is a very strong weapon. Do you know what I mean? You remember the same COVID adverts Buddy spoke about? Not adverts, broadcasts. And today, 486 people died. So stay in your homes and don't leave.
Yep.
Yeah? That was broadcast 3 times a day, live. Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember the TV used to be on, and when it used to come on, I was like, do I watch this? Do I not watch this? And I watched it to find out, it's only in the low 300s. We should be getting better.
And then the next day,
1,200 people that. Well, did you miscount yesterday? Like, do you know what I mean? However, I then started to realise, I was like, 1 second, this is not making sense.
So like you said, to just quickly, but like you just said, the scaremongering side of things, I got COVID at one point, caught COVID, and well, it was COVID in the end, but I got sick and I had a temperature, and I'm lying there thinking, because of this scaremongering now, I'm like, this temperature's gonna get so high, I'm gonna die, like everybody else is dying. I've got COVID, I've got the vid, I'm dead. And I'm lying there and I'm probably making myself worse, thinking the temperature's, I remember not sleeping, going, temperature's gonna get so hot, then I'm gonna get brain damage, and then I'm gonna die. It's something like that's gonna happen to me, because that's what COVID is. Remember, that's what they're saying on the TV. So the scaremongering, like he's saying, is dangerous. There's no goodness to it, because it will just make you think things that aren't really there.
Just an interesting point about scaremongering. And we're talking about social media and sharing information and how it's all going across. Do you think that there's been a large part of scaremongering in the reporting of the riots, or do you think the riots are as bad as they've been shared out?
So what you have to remember is these media outlets are basically in control. And these strong influencers, they can change narratives like that. And some of them know how to wield this power. Do you get what I mean? So you have to be very, very careful. This is why I'm saying the outcome, the unrest, has to affect change. It has to. Not it should do, it has to.
What's the change you would expect to see?
As Sorelli said, you're not going to see any immediate change. You're going to see policies. You're going to hear... Like for me, I don't understand if there are riots taking place in 5 different counties across the country, why your leaders, your monarch isn't addressing the nation and saying, please calm down.
Especially when they're shouting your name.
Why,
He has addressed the nation, hasn't he?
Has he?
Has he?
About the riots?
Yeah, he said something. That's when he started making out the point that everybody was gonna, like, if you do riot, you will be seeing serious jail time, which is why
No. As in the king, as in not the prime minister, as in the king.
Oh, the king,
monarch.
Yeah, let's not go into that.
No, but at the end of the day, if you are the perceived leader,
Because
it's your country, your face is on the money, bro.
Yeah,
So-
they're in theory calling. No, it
his
is
face
already,
on the
brother.
money. You just ain't earning
Yeah,
more money.
you're not earning. All my money is got.
You're just living in plastic world. But his face is on the money.
Yep,
so,
it's out.
So if this is your role, you should be there. Stand next to the Prime Minister. Do you know what I mean? Stand next to the Prime Minister. Stand next to the...
Make a
Yeah,
statement.
don't do this in my name.
Traditional...
Yeah, it'd make a statement.
Yeah, traditional, the Archbishop would have been sat in there as well. Do you get what I mean? And they all would have stood side by side and saying, this has to stop.
If
This
it's
can't
what
continue.
if it's what your role model, your
If
leader.
you are the leader, then
same.
these are the things you have to say. And I'm not saying people will listen, but what I'll say is the conversation changes.
And it's
Yeah,
funny-
because they're shouting. When you listen to the riots and what they're actually saying, they're shouting for our king. Listen to what they're saying.
But it's also funny you say that, because one of the people that have been an antagonist of this has actually been Elon Musk. There's another one that he's getting a lot of blame for it, because he's inciting a lot of war and hatred towards it. And a lot of this, one of the things that how this allegedly got started was it was from a bot that was created by a Russian, and then they got onto Twitter, or X now, and then it's been basically put out through there, which Elon Musk said he would not allow any bots on side and on X, because now obviously he's taken over. I said no, there was a technology on there that would allow no bots onto X, but somehow a Russian one's got on there and was able to put something out which basically led to the boy's name being released, which then allowed which basically started off all the foolishness, and he's been inciting it with tweets. And I've actually seen some of his tweets and thought, why are you still... You're pushing a narrative, and it's not going to help, because a lot of people follow what you say. You're very influential.
But to be fair, do you think they should have released the kid's name?
I think they had to. I
We
think
wanted
they
to
had
know
to.
who it was.
Because the problem was, the narrative going out was that it was a Muslim asylum seeker who had come here illegally, and all of that was not true. And if they haven't released it's a catch-22. If they didn't release his name, it's protecting him as they would do because he was a minor. But if they by releasing his name, they're trying to stop the narrative of it being the false stories of where he's from, people being targeted, and all these things.
But it hasn't
happening.
made a difference.
it hasn't made a difference in the sense of
it
stopping
probably
it.
has made a difference.
For some people,
For
it
some,
has.
yeah,
But for
exactly.
those who had the thing of they wanted to go out there and just attack everybody,
Anyway,
that's what they're doing it anyway.
So if this was a white guy called Steve, all of a sudden, there's no rights. Is that what we're honestly saying?
I'm not saying there's no rights. What I'm saying is, you have to remember, you always need one thing to cause the butterfly effect. You need one thing to cause the ripple. And if all of these people are feeling pissed off and something happens which galvanizes and groups us together and we can use that to propel what's pissed us off, then let's do that. And that's what's happening.
I would agree. I would actually say yes, if it was a white man called Steve, this riots don't happen.
What happened
Because-
with the kid? The kid got stabbed with a sword. There was no riots. There was.
At the end of the day, you guys just explained it. So you can't now go back. But he literally just said, well, because this had happened, then social media then done the rounds. As Wiley said, they had to release the name to try and control the direction of it all. So you have to remember, this is information, this is power. These people have power. So it's not the government turning around and doing this. It's not the far right saying,
Yeah, I
"Oh,
totally agree.
Now we're gonna make this happen because of this." This is a people that are not happy, a group of people, regardless who they are. There's a people that are not happy and they want to do something about it, but they can't. They can't. There's nothing to bind them together. Something's happened that's made them bind together. In them binding together, or them now being bound, they are now going to cause a change, and that change is through the horrific scenes of the writing or antagonizing and bullying of communities and whatever else. Now, all of this is still down to the information being controlled. And how the information is being controlled by the media or the social media or whatever else the case is. It's very, very scary.
I think the reason why I disagree, though, is I think that and I agree with or not even agree, but to answer what Buddy's question was about if it was a white man called Steve, the reason why I say this wouldn't have happened right now, because there would have been I don't want to say incentive ain't the right word, incentive to say we're targeting a group of people. This all came off the back of, let's not forget, it's only about, because the podcast was 2 weeks ago, and 2 weeks ago in Rain's Roundup, shout out to Rain, he was mentioning about what happened at Manchester Airport. Now, there was a lot of feedback, a lot of kickback about what was being discussed on that incident. And that then happening, and then a week or 2 weeks later, you then have this happening. The people that wanted the excuse to go and do a madness and go rioting and go and attack people that were others, this is another excuse for an other.
So-
but if it was a white male who did it, they don't have that excuse as an other to target.
Right. So when the 2012 riots, we need to get
It's
the
2011.
Yeah.
It's 2011.
Right. So when those riots took place, I was running my charity at the time, working with young people, and I remember the messages going out on WhatsApp and on BlackBerry just before it died out of the gang saying, "Let's squash the beef, let's get together, we're gonna go cause havoc." This was in Hackney, just Hackney, right? This is where the first, if you remember, that's where the first.
Yeah.
Right, like in Tottenham, there was the protests. In Hackney was where the riot started. Yeah? So I remember seeing these messages and I'm just like, geez, what's going on? I'm going out there speaking to the youths and finding, and they was like, nah, there's no beef, you know. These men all went to school together and whatever else. Yesterday they were trying to kill each other. Today we're standing shoulder to shoulder because we're going to fight the establishment. Now, it took a police officer to kill one of us, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Now, this narrative that's being pushed is a brown guy killed 3 of us. Do you get what I mean? And multiple others were injured. Do you know what I mean? I think it was only just earlier on this week the last young girl was released out of hospital. So when you say would the riots take place, maybe not in the same vein. However, giving the individuals a reason to bond together, it's the same thing. It's that whole pack mentality, you know. And I mean, I don't know. It's just scary because you then think to yourself. I think Relly said it earlier on a voice note that, and you've mentioned it again today, that there'll be members of our community who, look, I mean, actually, let me make it real. Myself, today I had a job, finished my job in Leighton. I had to drop off the guy that I was working with. So where do you want to go? I said, the nearest train station is Walthamstow. In the back of my mind, just for a split second, I was like, eesh. Do I want to drive to Walthamstow or should I drive you to another station? Am I scared of going Walthamstow? No. But something in my brain said to me, actually, let's go Black Horse Road, or let's go Seven Sisters, or let's go Tottenham Hale, or I'll drop you somewhere else. Do you get what I mean? Now, what is that? Now, I can, do you know what I mean, chat the most and say I'm not scared of anything, but it entered my head. So if it entered my head, imagine however many other people who need to go to work via Walthamstow to get to their office, or go to school in the area, or college in the area, or work in the area, or study in it, whatever the case is. You then think to yourself, this is now being reverberated around our whole community of people.
You've actually touched right onto... No, it's perfect. You've touched right onto the question I was about to ask, which is, how safe do you feel as a black man in the country right now? And you see what you've just said there shows that your level of safety from what you felt 2 weeks ago has altered. Because if you're having to deviate your mind from a normal thing you would do on a normal basis to think, you know what, do I really want to go there? That means you're having to change or alter your state of mind or your state of being. That in itself shows your level of safety has deteriorated.
Do you know when they say, I just remember this on American Dad, so for those that don't watch it, I apologise, but he had the indicator. And it goes, yeah, we're now at a brown level.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And we move the arrow to the level of danger.
Yes.
Do you get what I mean? Yeah, we're now at brown level, so you know what the protocol is for brown level, blah, 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 whatever the case is. So for me, I would definitely say that something in my subconscious definitely clicked. Do you know what I mean? So that being the case, then probably there is something there. However, next week, I've got work in some of the places that were listed on the list of we're going to write here. Have I given it a second thought of going there? No.
Sorry.
Should I? Possibly.
As you just said that, I just thought, where was my job today? I was like, oh, wait a second. It was right in Finchley. I didn't even think of that.
But do you feel as safe as you did before? Do you feel like, don't bother me, I'm just
You see,
doing
the thing
what
is,
I'm doing?
I wouldn't put it down to safety. I understand the reason why you asked that. Level of concern, definitely, DEFCON 1. Yeah, I've definitely increased my vigilance, not just for myself, but for family members around me. I mean, there are people in my family who have been sent home from work today.
Yeah.
And yesterday, go home, leave at 2 o'clock, because the thing that's going around on social media that they're doing this attacks all these places and whatnot. And if I'm being honest with you, personally, I think that was fake. I think that kind of information just being sent out there, that's just...
It was for exactly the response that actually happened.
Yeah, that's my personal view. But what it's done is it's made everybody alert. It's made people... Citrus is now, let's not go Walthamstow. Members of my family, boss is saying, go home early today. Just be safe. There was, my son goes to a summer camp thing, only for a few days, and they were on, go home early. Kind of parents, on this day, we're going to do a half day. A very short notice kind of thing. Now, the thing is, I understand why they did it. Do I necessarily agree with it? I'm not one to pander to these kind of things, but I do understand when it's not your decision, you should take precautions. If you've got a staff member, send them home. I'm going to stay in the office, but you go home. So I understand these things. Do I think you should live your life on that kind of premise and that kind of stuff? And not necessarily, because, again, being in London, we are somewhat isolated. We're somewhat insulated from this kind of effect and this kind of... And it's only when it comes to London and things happen in London do people actually start to take this thing seriously. When it's happening on the TV and, it's in Southport, it's much... Yeah, we know it's in the same country, but it doesn't have the same effect. However, if you're coming home and your local shop is boarded up and you know, you want to get some on the way home after the podcast and everybody shut down. You're like, wait, what's going on? Why can't I pick up a bagel on the way home? No, there's something. Because of protests, we're closed early today and we're not opening tomorrow. Then all of a sudden, that becomes your reality. Now we're talking a different thing. Now you can't stop talking about it. You're phoning your parents, you're phoning your sister, your brother, your family. Are you okay? What are you doing tomorrow? Are you by yourself? Do you want me to come round? Do you know what I mean? So and this is why I say that it has so many avenues that this thing can take. It can go wild, and I hope it doesn't, because the effect it has on adults is one thing. Excuse me, but the effect it has on kids, that's a totally different. We're talking next level now. So now in my house, I can't put my TV on the news. Can't let my son see it because he's asking questions. Why are they rioting? Why did this happen? Why has that happened? Why did the thing with the kids being killed?
Yeah. I
can't let him see those kind of things. I can't expose him to this, but other kids see it and other kids talk about it. So do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing that you do your best to insulate them and you do your best to protect them from it, but this is the reality of the world around them. And this is why I'm saying that sometimes being given a short, sharp shock to say, you know, open up your eyes, don't be walking blind. But yeah.
Buddy.
No, we're good.
I was about to say to you, has your level of safety changed? Is it remaining?
It's good, bruv. Man said, yeah, I'm bowling around everywhere and I'm not.
I mean, because I know he said he went to Finchley, but I'm saying as a general thing, do you feel exactly the same, or are you just...
To be honest with you, yeah, I do. And again, it probably comes down to very much what Sorelli just said. In fact, we live in London. If you now turn and say to me, oh yeah, so Lee, go up to Liverpool. I mean, and in between that, stop off at this in Burnley, stop off in certain other places. I'm like, whoa, hold a second. Those aren't places that I know that our folks are predominant in. As soon as you start doing that, all of a sudden I'll be like, I don't think I feel safe right now. All right, but right now I'm in London. And I said this to everybody before. I said, London, anywhere that protesting happened in London, it was cool. There's too much diversity around London for it to be a thing where we wouldn't have gone and said, oh, let's go down there then. Let's go, we can get your train, Elizabeth line. Jump on one of them things.
Man said the Elizabeth line.
Get around there real quick, all right? And then we're good. So I'm saying to myself, that didn't, if you're going to say how I feel now, excuse me, no, I feel exactly the same. But again, like you said, like I just said, if I came out of London, then maybe I might feel a little bit different. But because I've got no intention of coming out of London into another part of England like that, I'm like, well, I feel fine.
So basically, if there was rioting in your neighbourhood right now, it would be a different conversation.
They've done the riots down here, 2011, all right. But it's like if they did the riots down here again, it's not something that affects me because it's not something that I would, like I said, I don't see it like that in London. If I was outside of London, ultimately at that point there, yeah, it would trouble me. If I had to send and say to you, yeah, I'm going to go down and stay in Burnley for the next week, I'm cancelling that job. I ain't going.
I'll be real with you. Me personally, I do not feel safe. I don't feel safe. Maybe it's the work that I do where it is public facing. So I've had racist abuse in my job before, but now my concern more is that people are becoming more and more emboldened, and we said it at the start of the podcast. The way that it was coming from the top of the government down to the people on the bottom, the emboldenment people have got to go out there and actually say and do things. They're not hiding what they're feeling no more. And my concern with it is that there isn't anything stopping somebody coming attacking somebody on the road. Like where we would say, okay, you know what, somebody wouldn't do that because they would know they're gonna get caught. Seeing those people rioting, I know it's not necessarily in London, but seeing how the people have been rioting, they don't fear no consequences.
I need to ask you a question, Mr. Wiley. For the last maybe year and a half, there have been videos that have been circulating on social media, WhatsApp in particular, of people being attacked on a train racially.
Yep.
You effing this and you effing that and this and that. And in most cases, sniggle, they get punched or somebody attacks them, or something happens. They,
Yeah.
there's a reaction to
There's
it.
a reaction to it, yeah.
There's a reaction to it. Now, I would say that should have been something to make you feel more comfortable than what's going on now, because those things are happening and it's happening behind closed doors.
Here's the thing, so I can answer that. When you look at what's happened in the public sector, just in general, not even just transport, public sector, because there's a lack of police presence in general. What you're now seeing is that people are being not just brave to go and say stuff, but they're just saying stuff and they're doing stuff. So they're going out there. Fair evading being the main thing. You'll see it. People just push through and do whatever. But it's becoming such a level of things happening. The level of abuse people are getting, the level of threats people are getting has gone through the roof. What's happening now, though, and what we was concerned more of in the field that I work in, is that the people that are travelling to these places, like when we're talking about people going Walthamstows or the Brentfords or whatever, they're travelling there. They're travelling on these networks and they're openly displaying what they're doing. So they're going to see, they're going through a station where there may be black staff, there may be Asian staff, and they're abusing them on their way to the thing. And they know they can get away with it because they do that sort of stuff individually. As a collective, they're doing it even worse now. So for me, my fear with it, I suppose, is more the fact that I know that on a normal day, the establishment don't actually take action with these things. So on this basis, it's only going to get worse.
So I always something, and as we're obviously getting closer and closer to that time, as a roundup, and something that I suppose people should take away, what do you feel to yourself are changes that could be made to help the system, rather than us all bitching about what's the problems we faced? What's the changes that can be made to help it, or do you feel?
From my particular perspective, I think there needs to be a lot more heavy-handed police presence than what there is now. It would have been interesting if, when this rioting was going on, we saw the police presence there, but we never saw the heavy-handedness we would have expected.
Because there was
Like, I shouldn't be seeing a video of a black man in Manchester getting his head booted left, right, and centre, and there's no police to protect or get them out of that situation. I shouldn't be seeing people's houses getting torched, shops and buildings getting torched, and the police have not got control of the situation. I shouldn't be seeing that. And in this day and age, you shouldn't expect that to be the norm. You should expect to be able to say, if people are threatening this sort of disorder, because this wasn't a hidden thing, it was all communicated, police knew what was going because they was there in their droves. It's concerning, I think, that we didn't see the level of proactive defence of people. Like, imagine there was the hotels that had asylum seekers and children being burnt, and there's children in the hotels. This sort of stuff here, where was the level of protection that you would expect to see stopping that happening? So that's what I would want to see. The changes I want to see, more protection for people that are at risk. That's what I would want to see.
Certainly.
So, before I answer that, just to respond to that kind of thing, you're absolutely right. They were attacking the hotels and stuff like that. The media have released 4 pictures and names of 4 people that the police have arrested, and they're going to be sentenced, I think, in the coming week or so, along those
The 4
dates.
pictures they sent, they've all been sentenced. They wasn't to do with the...
They haven't been sentenced.
2 years, 8 months.
Yeah.
What, 2 of them got. I know.
I think there's some people that have been arrested, but they're going to be sentenced later on. But yeah, there's a whole lot of people some have been sentenced. Quite a lot have not. It's a mixed mismatch of both, really.
Okay, well, the 4 I saw today, who are, there's one in particular who has, I'm not going to say none of their names, not to promote them, but one of them has a tattoo on his face, and I know for a fact he was one of the main instigators in the incidents, because you can see him on the video, and they haven't sentenced him yet. But it's a catch-22, because as we stand at the moment, when was it? 2 weeks ago, the government was saying that they released some information stating that prisoners in prison will get a discount almost now because there isn't enough spaces in prison, so they're going to get a reduction, and they actually called it, I can't remember, but one of the
40% reduction.
Yeah, a sentence reduction.
We spoke about. Funny thing is, a couple podcasts ago, we spoke about the limited numbers in prisons, and look at that.
And there, it's absolutely mad, But their resolution to this problem is we will give you a shorter sentence. We'll set you free to make space for these new people that we need to put in. Now, it doesn't make sense unless you look at it from a point of view where you're like, well, maybe they need to justify money being spent on a private sector of a prison that we are now hiring from this person and we can pay them to put... Do you know what I mean? The conspiracy can go wild, but it would make sense because we have all these people now that we've arrested and we want them inside and you want them inside. So to make that happen, we now have to spend money. We need to do this, we need to do that. But look, as it stands at the moment, it's wild out there. It's the government. It's not a let's do this and it solves the problem, because the hatred that people are feeling is not going to go away by, for example, opening up 2 factories or 3 factories in these areas. It's much more than that. The economy itself is going down. You know, people who had bonds and stuff like that, they're not maturing like they used to. Interest rates are going down, but, you know, it's not helping people. On the way coming to the podcast, I was working out of town, so I was coming in and I stopped off for something. And there was a 2-bed property, not too far from here, for rent, nothing amazing. And they wanted over £2,000 a month for a 2-bed flat, not a house. We're in North London. And when you put those kind of figures into reality of the average working family, it's unreal. Now, will the government put a rent cap? Do you know what I mean? The kind of things that would affect people's lives immediately, they can't do and they won't do because the elites will not have it. So what can a government do to make this? Yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see what they come up with. I say, and my prediction is some entertainment's going to come out, something's going to come out to distract us, which doesn't actually have any substance, but it will be good enough to, almost like that laser dot. You know, when you throw it on the wall, all of a sudden it's got your attention. That's what we're going to get. We're going to get dotted.
Citrus.
Yeah, what's the question?
Buddy was asking, what do you think the government or the people in power can do to change it rather than us talking about what's going on?
I think they just need to show presence. The same way the people, and not just Walthamstow, that's what we've seen, but it's been people up and down the country that have shown presence. The government just need to show presence and be. There are ways to affect people in there are lots of ways to affect people. That's me trying to make it simple. You can do a lot to affect people. How you affect those people is really down to yourself. Do you know what I mean? If you turn around and said, for example, anyone caught actively rioting, your national insurance contribution is going to go up by double, your jail time is going to be minimum 4 years. No early release, no nothing. So yeah, go out, have your protest, that's fine, because you have a message to share. But when you start the intimidation, when you start the bullying, when you start the harassment, when you start the, do you know what I mean, endangering lives and whatever else, this is what you're going to receive.
Interesting.
So you can make bold statements that sweep across, that stop certain behaviours. But if you're not doing any of that, then we are where we are.
Yeah.
I spoke about Section 60s, Section 20s. There are lots that you can do. Put a curfew down. Do you know what I mean? It may not be nice. You may need it for 4 or 5 days. However, if you bring the temperature down, I don't know who was talking about temperature, but you bring the temperature down, all of a sudden, that boiling point starts to go back down to a simmer. It's not going away, but you just reduce it down. And that's what I believe could happen.
We had some couple comments on the live, and we're going to try and close up with a couple of them before we get the final statements from people. But Soul Walker 75 says, this government is not going to serve the people the way it should. And if they do, it will be token gestures, here today and gone tomorrow. And he also raised the fact, which I think we touched on earlier, was that we've just had lockdown, Black Lives Matter, and now this. And during a period where many are on holiday too, so the focus on safety because of what's happened is high, and probably more for your kids, as Cirelli was saying, and others over yourself. Interesting. It's a mad period of time right now, and for those that are watching on the live, please stay safe. I think that's the most important message we can definitely say to people. Stay safe, keep your wits about you, and yeah, live as you need to live, but remain safe and vigilant at all times. But this has been the Empty Podcast. If the glass ain't half full,
It's empty.
Mr. Bone, I've got a question for you.
go on.
So you're a doctor, you're in
Yep.
hospital working, and one of these far rights come in with a busted head, and he's effing and blind. And
I've gone sick. I'm suddenly
you're-
I'm suddenly now not feeling well.
so you're not treating him,
I'm suddenly now not feeling well.
but he's bleeding out. You're the doctor on duty.
My principles of who I am go over my duties as a doctor. Because if you've attacked my people, I can't come and be saving you. Sorry, that's not me.
So once the racial card's been played, you're not interested.
It's not the racial card. It's not even a racial card. What it comes down to is if you've attacked my people, I can't now overlook that. I can't overlook that. It's impossible to overlook. And I think it's human nature. Even if it was your family, if someone punches your bum in the face, you're not going to now, if he's got a broken hand, as a doctor, go and tend to his hand. Because that's your bum. That's your people. No. Sorry.
Buddy, are you seeing to him? You're aiding him? Your job is to serve and protect, not serve and protect, but to serve and heal.
Well, the guy's coming in with a bust up the head.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I save him? I said, we've got people, bro. People.
But he was one of those people that was rioting and...
You have to teach someone, innit?
He's got his own reason, innit?
Yeah. Like he goes, I'm understanding, bro. We say these things, right? And one of the things you didn't get to ask me my question, and we're off the lines anyway, but I would answer my own. You know what I think would help? Everybody just listens. A sensible person.
Still there.
Oh, Russ. Oh, if everybody just listens. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we've got to hear everybody's point. And I'm not talking about the idiot that's going to turn and say, yeah, they're not giving me any jobs. Oh, I can't get a job because I've just come out of jail. I'm like, bro, you're not talking sense. I'm talking about the sensible people like that are actually there saying, well, look, you know, we're writing because at the end of the day, they killed our people. You've got these people coming in. We've got less jobs. And if you've got some facts and figures and whatever else, not something sensible and substantial about it, listen to what they've got to say, because there might be a point in there that can actually turn and say, you know what, I can help that people.
Can you be sensible if you're writing though? If you're having a discourse with people and you're talking, I can have a sensible conversation with you. If you're attacking the vulnerable or attacking the people that are not, and remember, bear in mind, it's not to say that these people don't know the facts. They know these people are not involved in it. If you're attacking those people, how can I then converse with you on something on a serious, sensible level?
However, I couldn't get you around the table beforehand. Now we're causing civil unrest.
To get your attention.
To get your attention, now you're willing to listen.
Civil unrest is one thing. If you're going and you're doing looting, is one thing. I'm looking at the fact that they're attacking people. I don't
think the rioters. Sorry, I don't think the message is go out and attack. If you get what I mean, like I don't think the whole right wing is saying go outside and just beat up a brown person.
But I think that the racists are thinking that, and they're going out and doing that.
However, like anything, if you've got a movement, you're going to get some fractions of this movement that are going to go and do their own thing.
See, I disagree with you.
It's not the whole movement.
I think the movement is actually go out and cause havoc and do these things because they're not listening. Because I haven't heard, and maybe it's out there, but I haven't heard anybody from the right wing come out and say, you know, stop the violence. We just want to protest. That's not what I'm hearing.
However, your ear isn't listening to that wall. Do you get what I mean? That's not the channels that we're tuned into.
Yeah, but it's not out on. When you see them.
Remember I said to you, but where is the information being controlled? Yeah. So you have to look.
I disagree.
You have to go sky. You have to look from the sky. As Buddy said. Oh, 1 second.
Go on.
Buddy literally just said, "Listen." So if we sat down and pulled 5 of them in the room and said, "Listen, you sit over there. We'll sit here. We want to hear what you have to say because we want you to hear what we have to say. But we have to do the listening for a portion." And then hear what they have to say, and then we can respond or give them our point of view. And not to turn around and say we're going to stand up and shake hands and be best pals. At the end of it, it's not that. It's just, well, now we know what your problem is. Do you know what I mean? Buddy's got a solution for that. But we didn't realise that was one of the main problems. So let's address what that problem looks like.
But if the problem that they have and the points they want to raise doesn't exist, how do you then satisfy them?
It's not even that. That's even being more generous. My perspective is the minute you've gone and you started attacking people, you've now lost your opportunity to have a conversation with me because it's different. It's different, right? For example, when the riots were happening about the Mark Duggan killing and then the riots that subsequently took place after it, the focal point of it came back to there needs to be an inquiry about what happened with the Mark Duggan situation. That was the fireball that started everything. Then you had the whole thing about the social unrest and how people of colour feel they're perceived and treated by the establishment, aka the police. In this scenario, there is no fireball that says, you know what, people of colour or people of a different race are meant to be a target for whatever reason. There's no establishment they're going against. They're not going against the establishment. They're going against the others.
There's no asking it. There's no.
So when they're attacking the migrants, they're not going Parliament. When they're attacking the migrants, they're going to their places. When they're attacking the Asians and when they're attacking the Muslims, wait. We just about listen. When we move right back, when they're attacking a mosque, they're not going to, oh, we're going to do this because of the government. They're attacking the mosque. When they're attacking the black people, they're not, oh, because of whatever. They're attacking the black people. So it's not a basis of this is the message against the establishment. It's a message of we don't like you, we're coming for you.
But not immigration office, if that's what you're upset about, innit?
Yeah. But in terms of the actual places where the people are...
If you looked at the list of places that they were attacking,
there was immigration.
Right? There were immigration offices. Yeah. Some of them were mosques, some were immigration, they basically were turning around and saying, we're going to go for these pillar spots, these spots that are supposed to hold up foundations.
But none of them have actually been attacked. That's why I said that this is the same thing we were saying about the media, the information that we're being leaked, that's what we were leaked. But to date, none of those places have actually been attacked.
The ones that were attacked were the places that were not even listed, and those are the places that had people in them. It wasn't government.
It was
places,
hotels, where the immigrants were listed. It's shops, it's mosques. So that same rhetoric of saying releasing the information that they released to us has been a counterintuitive thing, because what they did release is not what's actually been happening.
Well, who released?
That's my point. We don't know.
Whoever it was that released these messages going out there saying these places were being attacked or were planned to be attacked is when you're saying who released it. What I'm saying is, after that attack happened with the girls, there was no list of places saying, oh, we're going to go and attack these list of places. These places were just attacked. So when these people went out and did what they did, they never went and attacked.
Attacked by how many people? Let's just put a number on it.
Hundreds of people. Hundreds of people.
200? 500?
You know what? I can't say to you, if I go and Google, I'll probably Google. But what I'm saying is the amount of people attacking mosques, attacking hotels, whatever, were in their hundreds. The amount of people burning them places and attacking the people in there was in their hundreds.
Wasn't it a police car that got burnt?
Sorry?
Wasn't it a police car that got
I
burnt?
don't know. It was a migrants hotel also that got burnt because there were children in there that had to evacuate.
So the point I'm making is to get the... And don't get wrong, I'm not saying it's okay. But to get the attention and to be able to be seated around the table, I need you to listen to me. If you're not going to listen to me, I'm going to attack you at your weakest point.
So attack the establishment?
If not necessarily.
So who are you getting to listen?
Because the message, you're not listening.
No, I'm asking, who are you getting to listen?
I'm telling you... For me to get the government to listen, I have to attack the government's people. The government have chosen these people, so I'm going to attack those people until the government says, you know what, we've got to stop it. What we're going to do, let's talk, let's have a conversation. Oh, so now you're willing to listen. Now you're inviting us around the table. Now we can have a conversation. I'm not turning around and saying it's right, but this is the reality. You're turning around and saying that there's certain people that's been picked out, like Nigel Farage and Tommy Robinson and all of these other figureheads or whatever else the case is. They know if they have the right conversations with these figurehead types of people and certain messages are getting through and getting back and policies are being changed or even ways of life are being changed and different things are being influenced, then the movement can be told, do you know what, things are happening, you're now being listened to. How they're doing it, please, I'm not defending any of that. But I'm not going to turn around and say that they're going to be smart enough or calculated enough or clever enough to turn around and say, do you know what? Let's go burn down the House of Parliament because then they're going to listen to us. They know they can't necessarily do that. So they're going to go for your weakest point. If you look in the art of war, come on, bro. Do you know what I mean? Take out the weakest first, because then I can then do whatever I need to do to the masses.
Let's put it this way. They're not going to turn up at Buckingham Palace and say, let's cause a riot right there.
They're not going to do that. But I think you're giving them too much credit in terms of the level of what you're thinking their plan is. The plan of these people wasn't to, we want the government to hear us. The plan of these people was to attack these people. That was the
So do you think? So what's the
people?
For you said no.
This is what I'll get to what I'm trying to say. There's two different elements here. There's the people that are in positions of authority, power, the Tommy Robinsons, the Nigel Farages, whatever. Those are the people that are giving the far right message to try and get it heard by the establishment, yeah? The people on the ground that were attacking the mosques, attacking the communities, attacking the people, those are the people that just want to attack the people. So you've got two different people here. You've got two different messages being sent out here. It's not to say that it's not to say you look confused. I know why you're confused. No, it's not to say that I don't know why. No. It's not to say that the people that are attacking are suddenly saying, we want to be heard by the government, so we're going to go and start burn down this mosque here, and if we do that, that'll mean we're going to be heard. They're doing it because they don't like the people in the mosque.
All right, so what happened in the London riots?
What happened?
One second. Is it not the same thing?
No, it's not.
People started looting for no reason.
No, it's not.
But there was the people that actually wanted something to be done and was actually protesting, was standing outside of the police, which was the family. All right, and the family stood there. They said they wanted justice for their son. All right, and their loved one. Yeah. All right, that was what the whole riot was about. Then the riot started. Others came and said, he just said it. What beef down there? Yeah, blow up a couple of police cars. Yeah, right. What looting that shop? Yeah, get some. Then it was off. That's what happened.
I actually said that.
So you just said that?
I actually said that at the very beginning, that it's different. And the reason why I said it was different was because when the initial things were happening in those 2011 whatever riots, it was against the establishment, the police. The initial things that have happened here was not against the establishment. It was against the others. It was against the people. It wasn't against the...
But you know
what? Go on, explain the difference.
I think what I'll share with you is... the same video that I referenced when I started my chat, when I spoke about the Tommy Robinson guy turning around and saying, the people are doing this because you did this.
Yeah, I know.
The people are doing this because you did. So if you listen to his message and what that means, he's galvanizing those who are listening to the message saying, yeah, we're doing what he said. Do you know what I mean? How they're doing it or what they're doing,
we're not justifying.
But we're doing what he said. So if he's still spitting these bars out to turn around and say, the reason why they're doing it is because of this. My leader turned around and said, we should do this to cause that. And then you're giving these people the green light to go and do it. Bro, this is what I'm saying. I'm not turning around and saying for any reason they like these people in there. They don't. That's fact. But they know... through this uproar, you're going to get unsettled, you're going to cause unrest until we find a way to get closer towards what we want. And the what we want is what I don't know. So Buddy and I, when you were talking, was like, okay, let's say they are burning down every mosque and every hotel and whatever else. To what outcome? Do they really think everyone's going to up and leave these small... desolate towns that can't function with this migrating community there? Do they think this is what's going to happen here?
What do you think?
And you know what? I'm sorry. Yes, that's exactly what they think. That's what they did for Brexit.
Therefore,
when we vote Brexit...
Do you know why you can't say that? No, do you know why you can't say that?
Hold on.
Because you're not them.
When they voted Brexit, and a lot of them have come forward now and said, we saw the advert on the bus, we believed it, so therefore we voted it. But it hasn't happened. So all of those things that you're saying, it has happened. It's happened in the past. We've had Brexit. You have to remember, a lot of these people, and I'm comfortable to say it, that come out and do all the violence of these riots are not necessarily the Einsteins and they're just out. Cause when you then even get one of them isolated and you speak to them, and why are you rioting? Because they take our jobs. Yeah, when was the last time you can't get a job? Yeah, I was in prison. Oh, and that's why you can't get... Brother, we're not talking to someone who's thinking on the next 4 steps ahead. They're thinking about immediate, now,
Yeah.
So once again,
Somebody said to me that if I riot, we're going to get rid of all the migrants. It's as simple as that.
All right, 1 second. Really, is it not this? We're talking about the same thing, you know. Like I just said, in the London riots, there were people that came out there to support the family and do the movement, and there was people that came out there to turn and say, "I'm going to rob a shop."
Yep.
So where we're talking about these riots now, there are people out there that are saying there is an end game. There's something that we want. We want the less immigrants. We want passport control. We want this. This is what we want. There's a sensible person at the top of the chain here. But then there's the idiots that are saying to themselves, well, this is our chance to go and beat up some black people. Let's do this. 1 second, black people have nothing to do with this. What are you doing? Let's just burn them now. Burn them? What are you doing? You're an idiot. And that's what you're not understanding. Two different idiots, but there's two idiots. And you're not understanding there's a person at the top of the chain that said, like I said in the beginning of my statement was, what I feel should happen is people need to listen. I'm not saying I agree with the idiots, the top guys' point of view. All right, his point of view just doesn't work. I don't think it's right. I might not believe it's right, but the same way that they don't believe that my point of view is right on the other hand. So I'm saying, but I need the top person, whoever's in charge of the country, the person that's standing firm, makes the decision, needs to turn and say to himself, let me listen and see if I can come to an understanding, and I can turn and delegate. I can sort out a way to make this all a democracy. That's what I need to do. All right, as a leader, that's what I would do. I would listen, and that's my point. Because so far we're actually having the same point about the idiots, like you just mentioned,
on both sides.
On both sides, it makes sense.
But it's different, and I'm going to keep going back to what the difference is. In the 2011, it was galvanised by a fight against the establishment. The people jumped on top of it. So the people who were initially raising whatever hell they were raising, the uproar, whatever. I'm not talking about the rioting or the looting. The uproar was against what happened. Let's raise against the establishment. Let's go to the police stations and protest and whatever. Then people jumped on the back of that and made whatever.
Which is saying idiots.
What's happened here is there's been misinformation of a situation. Yeah. Somebody has killed 3 children. There's been misinformation of this person being a Muslim or this person being a migrant or whatever. The people that are, and that information has come out to be cleared. It's not the same thing. It's not the person. It's not those groups that you're talking about. It's not them. They have still gone out there and targeted those people, which means it's not for the purpose of going against the establishment to say, you know what, for the establishment, I'm going against migrants because a migrant has done something. No, your information's wrong. They're still doing something anyway, which means they have got it in mind. They do not like these people. This is just an excuse to go and do it.
Yes,
now, the people you're talking about coming and saying whatever have come on the back of it. They weren't at the forefront saying, you know what, let's go and start doing protests or whatever. They weren't at the front. Whereas in the 2011 riots, at the front of it,
knew that.
the 2011, listen, I've been following the news, bruv. In the 2011 riots, I've been following the news. When it all happened, I've been following it. From the 2011 riots, I'm going to come to you, Citrus. In the 2011 riots, the initial thing that happened was a protest against the establishment, the police. There is no establishment here. So to give them credit and say, they're protesting against the establishment, they want the government change. No, these people are just racists going out there who have seen an excuse to go and attack certain people.
Yeah,
That's
idiots.
it.
We've agreed to that.
That's it.
So final point, because I think we need to...
final point.
I think we need to terminate. A couple things.
Go on.
There was a BNP. There's the EDL.
You talk about historically?
Yeah.
Okay, BNP, National Front, BNP.
National Front,
EDL.
BNP, EDL. What was they called? What was Nigel Farage's party called? UKIP. And then you had the Brexit party.
Then Reform.
And now you've got Reform. So, going by what you've said, there's a movement that's just been, as I said to you, simmering.
Yeah.
And they've been gaining traction for many years. How to galvanise that, it hadn't happened, right? But they've been gaining traction. Look at these smaller towns and counties and seeing how these people are voting, and you're like, rah, how can they've got a
Reform
MP or a blah blah MP or there was one voted here, and I mean I remember North Chingford had something weird going on and whatever else. So this isn't what we're seeing now is looking at the picture. But if you watch the whole film, you would have seen historically that this has been bubbling.
I totally agree.
For us to turn around and now say, well, because of this happening, this is happening, that's happening, they don't want nothing. No. They've tried to do it this method by voting and doing a political movement through all of these, I suppose, organisations. It hasn't worked to the level they wanted it to work over the period of time they've tried to make it work. So now they're using, do you know what? You're not listening to us. Bareface, I'm just going to punch a brown person in the face. I'm doing it on camera. This guy's streaming on Facebook. He's got 18,000 people watching. I'm going to do it anyway. That's been picked up. Now everyone knows who I am. Do you know what I mean? Steve with the tattoo on my face. Or whatever the case is. So as Buddy said, and I hate agreeing with him, but you got an idiot at the top saying something, or not idiot at the top, you got a person at the top saying something that might seem idiotic to us because we don't live in their world. And then you got people who are suffering, who are living a very similar line to the person that's at the top and say, well, what can we do about it? Yeah, go and punch up some black people and burn down a hotel and kill babies. All right, let's go and do that. You know why? Because they took one of ours, so we're going to take one of theirs. Do you know what I mean? So there are people that think their action is justified because this is what you've done to us, so we're going to do it now back to you. But that message would have to go all the way back up to the same political route if you're going to work in the same democratic society that we're meant to be based on, to say, well, 1 second, we need to now come to a resolution. How are we going to do that? We're going to have to come back and say, do you know them policies that you were talking about, what you wanted to do, which was this, that, and the other, regardless if we agree with it or not, let's sit down and talk about it. And the last line I'm going to say is think of the IRA. And this has been Citrus from the MT podcast. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna agree with that. The IRA had an establishment movement, and it was a much broader thing than what has happened here. But for the sake of not being here until midnight, I will say this has been the MT podcast. Once again. We will pick this up. You know what? Actually,
now once the cameras are off, we're gonna carry on with the beef.
No, not even that. Watch the TikTok. Join in the conversations on the TikTok, the MT podcast. Catch us all in 2 weeks' time.
Shout goes out to Julien Alfred.
Indeed.
Yeah.